How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final time. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in dystopia. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not a because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah, please.
But Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
Yeah, well, and even Antifa doesn't want to be called liberal. Did you know that?
What do they know?
Well, Antifa is anti-capitalist, and that is not liberal. So that's the problem. Is like the terms are really muddy right now. So when you're looking at like Portland, the protesters in Portland.
Yeah, what exactly is going on in Portland? I'm trying not to pay attention.
Oh well, what's happened is
I know they've brought in the National Guard. Is that happening? Or
Yeah.
they tried to and they got blocked?
I think they have now. I think they're there. So what's happened is they're in front of the ICE facility. There are ongoing protests at night. Now I watch these streams, and I've been watching a self-professed fascist named Karlyn, who drinks and basically roasts these live streams. But weirdly, she has apparently embedded herself with Antifa before. And so it's such a funny stream because like...
So they tolerate her?
Oh, no, not anymore. She like... No. She's like... I mean, I don't know if she's trolling or not, but on her stream, she's like, I am a fascist.
Right.
So she's proudly proclaiming she's a fascist. I don't know how much of that is trolling, how much of it is real, but conservatives who are drawn to her stream will say things like, these people are funded by George Soros. And it's the funniest thing because she gets so mad. And she's like, get off fucking Fox News. Stop watching that shit. It's all wrong. Do these people look funded? Do these people look like they have money? They're not funded. It's so, and I guess her bigger point is by saying these are funded agitators and not saying what they actually are, which is anti-capitalist revolutionaries, you dilute what's really happening. Because what's really happening, according to her, and I think a fair amount of people, is that the economy is so fucked. The middle class is diminishing so much. The cost of living is so high that this is the perfect soil you need if you wanted communism to grow anywhere.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her. Drum links, 2, 3, drum links, 2, 3, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich in die Arbeit einweist und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn. Drum links 2, 3, drum links 2, 3, und ein Platz genossen ist, weil ich in die Arbeiter einweist und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein. Drum links 2, 3, drum links 2, 3, und ein Platz genossen ist, weil ich in die Arbeiter einweist und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
And lastly, we ask that there be no recording or streaming of today's sessions from the floor. And any disruptive behavior in today's session will result in being removed from the call.
We please ask that there will be no recording or streaming of today's sessions from the floor. Any disruptive behavior today could result in being removed from the call. So, just be a nice person. So with a little housekeeping things out of the way, let's jump right in.
Again, we ask no recording or streaming of today's session.
We ask that there be no recording or streaming of today's session from the floor. Any disruptive behavior in today's session will result in being removed from the call.
I'm muted. I'm muted. I will have you guys know. I will have you guys know that I am a professional streamer on the internet. I am a professional, damn it. I would never start my show off muted. Welcome to Socialism Saturday, everyone. Socialism Saturday is where we watch the real far left, the furthest of the far left, the most dystopian of the dystopian. On Socialism Saturday, we do not watch Democrats, liberals, or progressives because Democrats, liberals, and progressives are not socialists at all in any way, no matter how many times Donald Trump says it, no matter how many times Elon Musk tweets it, no matter how many times conservative media tells you that Democrats are communists. No. No, not in any way. We on Socialism Saturday, we watch the origin point of all of the crazy ideas in this country. If you want to know who's teaching critical race theory and anti-racist education in schools, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's teaching gender ideology and queering your kids and doing drag queen story hour, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's doing abolish the police, defund the police, the pro-Palestine protests, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's protesting outside the ICE facilities, and more importantly, why they're protesting outside of the ICE facilities, it is the people that we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you want to know who's doing climate change and the flotilla out to Palestine that keeps getting intercepted by Israel, shocker, it's the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. Literally every crazy idea that we have to deal with in the world today has an origin point, and that origin point is the radical revolutionary far left in America. And so on Socialism Saturdays, we go right to the source. We go and we watch their lectures. We watch their book launches. We listen to their education. We go to their conferences and we hear directly from the far left what they're doing. And well, I will show you crazy shit that you will not see anywhere else on the internet. What's my views on Q? Q is an insane conspiracy theory, and everyone who still believes in Q needs to stop. I need everyone to give up that dream. That dream is not real. You need to hinge back into reality. I appreciate the super chat. No, I do not believe in Q. I do not condone Q. I don't know what that means, but thanks for the money. I appreciate it. All right. Well, I've decided to throw all of you into the deep, deep, deep end of the pool tonight. In fact, I would venture to bet that there will be people who start watching this stream and tap out because of how crazy the topic is that we are going to watch tonight. If you can get through the topic that we are going to cover tonight, you might be able to get through any topic on the far left. Because the shit we're going to watch tonight, this is your test, okay? Some of you have been hanging around the channel for a couple weeks now. You know, I've introduced you to some abolish the family stuff. We've done a little bit of gender stuff here and there, but now I haven't even really broached queer Marxism with you guys yet. Queer Marxism, we're still kind of tiptoeing around because I don't want to scare anyone away, but I might traumatize you tonight, and I need to be very honest about that going into it. Trendolin, since we have new people, can we watch the Penguin video? Maybe Trendolin, but not right now, okay? Not right now. I'm not saying no to the Penguin video. I'm saying not right now, although I appreciate you, Trendolin. Thank you. We are watching Fat Studies tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and we're actually watching a presentation that we watched not too long ago on this channel. But we didn't watch the presentation for Socialism Saturday. We watched it during a midweek presentation. And so we have a ton of new people since we last watched the Fat Liberation presentation. And quite frankly, I want to watch it again because it is that level of insanity. It is that level of crazy. And so I thought, you know what? It's time for Fat Studies to take its proper place on Socialism Saturday to make sure everyone gets just as traumatized as I do. And after tonight, you guys might realize why I have gone insane on the internet after watching almost at least 5,000 hours of socialist content over the last 5 years. You will understand. All right? You will understand. Is everyone ready to see what we are watching tonight? Is everyone ready? Do you guys think you can handle this? Tonight, we are watching a presentation called Fat Liberation as Shared Liberation. Now, this is an interesting thing. Hang on, let me get my setup here. And I'll put the chat on the screen so you guys can see your chats. There you go. Now, this is an interesting presentation for the Penguin video. Fuck you, Grandma Nay. Everyone is well, okay, I'm not saying no to the Penguin video. I'm saying not right now. My God. My God, my own chat paying me to rebel against me. Happens every time. So, we are watching tonight a panel that took place at a taxpayer-funded public university through an organization called Radical Public Health. Radical Public Health is a group that exists at some universities where they are basically, what does radical mean? Let's break down the language. You can see this is on the Radical Public Health YouTube channel. It only has 213 subscribers. This video has less than 200 views, and at least one of them is mine. Let's break down the language. What do you guys think of in the language when you see the term radical? What does radical mean? Yep, radical means socialist. Radical means far leftist. Anytime you see radical, that means extreme, in this context, extreme far left. We're not talking about surfing or anything related to the state of California. We are or Ninja Turtles. We're not talking about Ninja Turtles. We're not talking about Bill and Ted. We're not talking about any of those things. Yeah, see, this is the spirit. Stefan has figured it out. This is the correct attitude for tonight. Let me get a beer. That is exactly right. Radical Public Health, in this case, is a group of socialist academics that are trying to infuse socialism and communism and queer Marxism into the discussion around public health. And they do a lot of crazy stuff on their YouTube channel. In fact, there's other presentations on this YouTube channel I want to watch. For example, I really want to watch this one, Reproductive Justice as Fugitive Activity. This one has been on the list to watch forever. Education as a fugitive activity. Introduction to health equity and fugidity. That means doing things that are against the law. They did a whole series on how to get around the law. This is literally an entire series in the Radical Public Health YouTube channel at public universities where they're talking and discussing around how do they avoid all these right-wing laws that are coming up in the red states. That's what this entire thing is about. They got all sorts of crazy stuff on this channel. But the one that I'm most interested in is this one. Fat Liberation as Shared Liberation. Let me read to you the description. Hang on. Radical Public Health at the University of Illinois, Chicago. So again, public, taxpayer, university. Is joined by panelists Autumn Miller, Dr. Monica, and Virgie for a discussion of the harms of anti-fatness, countering anti-fatness and intersections of fat liberation, Black and brown liberation, colonialism, and abolition. And again, like I said earlier, we have actually watched this presentation before. This will be the second time I watch this presentation. So I'm really suffering for all of you guys. But there is now, and every person in this presentation is insane. Okay. There is actually, Virgie actually works for like the city of San Francisco or something like that. This, and you're going to hear them talk about this, but the real star of this presentation is a woman named Autumn Miller. And what's so interesting about Autumn Miller, and I would really like to challenge the chat to find a photo of this woman tonight. Autumn Miller is an extreme radical leftist that has actually been involved in the bashback movement. We know that because we basically found her resume last time we watched this presentation. She is an extreme far leftist that's been involved in the bashback movement, which is a militant, violent, queer movement. And Autumn Miller seems to be a fat studies expert, and she refuses to come on camera. And we could not find a single picture of her last time we watched this presentation. But guess what? We're going to have more people watching tonight than we had last time. And so maybe we can all work together to find a picture of Autumn Miller. Maybe that can be like a scavenger hunt that we do during the presentation. We don't know how big she is, but we know she's an expert in fat studies. We know she's an extreme leftist queer Marxist. And we know that she doesn't want to be seen on the internet. So those three things combined tells me that Autumn, if we ever found Autumn Miller's photo, it would be really hilarious for us and very funny. And so we should definitely do that. And everyone should work together to do that in the course of this presentation. But let me just read her bio for you. Autumn Miller is a scholar activist of fat studies, abolition, and racial capitalism. As a PhD student in gender and women's studies, her research centers around framing anti-fatness as a key for the maintenance of the state overall. Her writing advocates for the necessity of fat liberation lens in building worlds and lives beyond the restriction and scarcity of the state and capital. A longtime political educator, Autumn has given presentations on fat liberation and redefining health in a wide variety of settings, both outside and inside academia. So here is my challenge to all of you during this presentation. I want absolutely every piece of information about Autumn Miller that we can find on the internet. I want every reference of every presentation this person has ever given. I want to find a photo of this person. I want to find a video of this person. I want to find where this person is now. I want to track this person down and stalk her relentlessly on the internet to within an inch of her sanity, because I'm fairly certain if we get within the vicinity of what is sure to be a rather rotund human being, I am sure we are going to find our way into the rabbit hole of absolute fat studies insanity. And so that is everyone's challenge in the course of this video today. You want our panty size? Yeah, you would, Mizakan. You would. Okay, whatever. So, but I want to make sure people, before we get into this, I want to make sure people have a good introduction to what fat studies actually is. And so what do we look at? What do we look at when we want to know the far left's position on something? What type of propaganda does the far left create that will tell us their position on like any topic and give us a really good introduction to what they believe? Does anyone know the answer to that? Zines. Yeah. Yeah, we look at zines. We look at zines. And so you might say, well, Karlyn, are there fat studies zines on the internet? And I would say, oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, there are. In fact, did you guys know there is an entire website dedicated to the archival of fat liberation zines? Have I read those zines? Some of them, and they're deeply traumatic. And there's one zine in particular. This isn't the only zine. This is just one zine. There's one zine called Fat Girl that was pretty influential in the rise of fat studies. Now, here is a fun fact about fat studies. And I learned this fact accidentally very early on, okay? I learned this very early on. Almost every single fat activist that I have ever encountered on the internet, and I've encountered more than I want to, almost every single fat activist that I have ever encountered was also an amateur porn star. And I found this out purely by accident because I used to research these people all the time. And I would find their Instagram accounts and I would find their profiles and all this stuff. And in their Instagram accounts, they always have a link tree. And do you know what is always and perpetually on all of the link trees off of the fat activists a link to their Pornhub or their OnlyFans or some other website where they are literally doing amateur pornography. I have seen accidentally more fat porn than I've ever wanted to see in my life, okay? And I'm going to give you a warning right now because this is a warning. I'm warning everyone. If you have children, you need to send them out of the room now because I'm going to show you something. And if you don't want to see what I'm going to show you, you can come back in 5 minutes, okay? Just leave the room, turn off the stream, come back in 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm giving everyone a fair warning right now. If I have to suffer, so do you guys, okay? I'm just going to give you guys a preview. We're not going to do an in-depth investigation, but I am warning you right now that I'm about to put something on the screen that is not safe for work. I told you tonight was going to be traumatic. I already warned you. Send the children out of the room now. We're going to look at the first edition of Fat Girl. Again, this is one of the Fat Studies zines, and you can see what the covers look like. We are going to look at the first edition of Fat Girl. Oh shit, where is the actual PDF? All I wanted was the first. What the fuck? I don't want it by pages. I want the full thing. There it is. Okay. We're going to look at the first edition of Fat Girl right now. This is the cover. Obviously, armpit hair because, you know, why not? They always have to be queering beauty. And can I just download the PDF? Can I just do that? Can I just download the PDF? Can I just do that instead? There we go. That's much better. That is significantly better. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll through this. And we're just going to have a little look-see about what's in it. Oh my goodness. My browser is rebelling against me for reasons that are probably obvious. So this is, oh my gosh. There we go. Now I can actually see what I'm doing. Aggressive. Fat Girl is aggressive, androgynous, angry, bold, big, butch, buxom, celebratory, challenging, charming, comic relief, community building, creative, critical, diverse, dyke, identified, faggy, fat, fat positive, femme, feminist, fleshy, for you, found next to your vibrator, fun, funny, goofy, hairy, hot, hungry, in your face, introspective, jiggly, jolly, joyous, kiki, kinky, lots and lots of fun, making room, more fun, nerdy, not judgmental, open to differing dykes' sexualities, open-minded, packing, perverse, political, powerful, radical, reflexive, resourceful, S&M, positive, sassy, sex positive, sexy, silly, smart, smutty, steamy, sticky, taking up space, talking about hard things, trans positive, twisted, unapologetic, vibrant, visual, wet, weird, witty, world-changing, XXXXXXXXXXL. If I go into the description of the Fat Studies zine. Fat Girl is a zine for and about fat dykes. Fat Girl seeks to create a broad dialogue based on both challenges and informs our notion of fat dyke identity. We encourage dialogue based on our lived experiences as fat women, recognizing our lives are various and multifaceted. Fat Girl is produced by an eclectic collection of fat dykes. We come in all shapes and sizes from diverse ethnic cultures and different class backgrounds. Producing Fat Girl is a political act. I'm just going to stop there just to make sure everyone hears this one. Producing Fat Girl is a political act because this is a far left ideology. We want your participation. Submit your daily experiences, getting from here to there, your fictional explorations, your whimsical blah, 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 blah. Now let's just scroll through. Let's just give you guys a preview. I'm just going to do this. Oh, there's the porn. Oh, we're on page 4. We're cover 1, 2, 3, porn. I'm just saying, if I have to suffer, so do you. If I have to suffer, so do you. The fat liberation movement has been around since the 1970s. This is actually an article about one of the foremothers of the fat liberation movement. It was called the Fat Underground, and it launched in 1972. This is why we read zines. I assure you, it's not for the fat porn. The reason that we read zines is because they give us the history of the development of this absurd ideology. Because what the left is very good at is not just making amateur pornography. What the left is very good at is documenting their struggle. And so if you want to study the left and you want to understand the evolution and the development of the left, you have to read this stuff because they lay it all out for you and they say, here is what happened. And they give you the history of what they're doing. It's just that when you're reading it, you also come across a lot of crazy shit like that right there. Are you ready to sacrifice to me, Jezebel? Oh, no. Continuing. Well, we've learned some sign language. All right. What else do we have in here? What else do we... Oh, there's some porn right there. There's some porn. Oh, look at that. Uh-oh. I told you to send the kids out. This is what you find. This is what you get when you get into queer Marxism. Oh, there's some more porn. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, I've read all of these look at that. I have read all of this stuff for you guys. I have the amount. No, I'm going to scroll by. I'm not going to go back to that one. That you don't want to see that picture again. The amount that I have suffered to understand the left, to teach all of you. Look, the bootlicking. We've covered bootlicking in other places on this channel. Look, it's in the Fat Studies zine. Yep. This is fat liberation, guys. This is what this looks like. They are always and forever amateur porn stars. And oh, look at that. Triangles. Oh, what do we know the triangle from? Is that queer Marxism? Look at that. Look at how the triangle always shows up related to this stuff. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? So you can see we're barely that. Oh, there it is. There's the last page. There it is. Now that you have seen just a really quick scroll of one Fat Studies document, I'm just going to warn you guys again. When I told you I was going to traumatize you tonight for Socialism Saturday, what I meant is I'm going to traumatize you tonight for Socialism Saturday. And so now I want everyone to just here's a moment to dig deep. We need to do some internal reflection. Are you sure you are ready for this? Are you sure you can recover from this? Because I warned you, and now I've given you a little bit of a preview of what the type of stuff we encounter when we are going into Fat Studies. I'm just going to give you guys a moment to reflect. If anyone here is trying to lose weight, try thinking of it as a counter-revolutionary act to uphold capitalism. Might have more success. Yup, I think that's a real good idea. I think it's a good idea. All right. So, with that out of the way, you have now all been duly warned, and we're going to start to get into our presentation, guys. But before we do that, we got a couple orders of business. Of course, business number one is if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business and allow me to read Fat Studies propaganda so you don't have to. I will read. I will sacrifice myself. And I will take the bullet for all of us. And I will read the Fat Studies zines so you don't have to. And if you want to support my work and send me in a thank you and appreciate the amount of torment that I have put myself through on your behalf, go to the Substack, sign up, $8 a month, $80 a year. I would really appreciate it. I'm 100% independently funded by people like you. I have no political masters. I do not shill any political narrative. The only thing I do is I show up and I tell you the truth and I show you the receipts. And so if you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to the Substack. Now, this is actually getting kind of important. Not that it wasn't important before, but now we have some status to maintain, right? Because if you look on my profile page on Substack right now, this is a new thing. Last week, I was number 77 in the rising U.S. politics rankings on Substack. Yesterday, I was number 44 in the rising U.S. politics rankings on Substack. Today, I am number 38 in the rising U.S. politics rankings on Substack. And basically what this is my Substack is one of the fastest growing Substacks on the entire platform. And almost every other person on this list is a lefty. I am one of the few representations on this list of right-leaning people. Let me show you who else is on the list. We want to keep me on the list because everyone else here is a lefty. This person is a trans activist. Obviously, Mehdi Hassan, the Free Press, that's an Israeli shill operation. Robert Reich. We got, let's see, who else? Adam Kinzinger. Rick Wilson, all of these people are leftists. Literally everyone ahead of me on this list is a leftist. Stacey Abrams, Joy Reid, everyone else, Don Lemon, everyone else ahead of me is a leftist. I am the first right-leaning person on the list. So if you want to help keep me on the list and expose my work to more people, now is a great time to sign up as a supporter, because that's how this list is done. It says, who is the fastest growing publication on the platform? I am obviously the fastest right-leaning political publication on this platform, but I am beating Dan Rather, and that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Right now, I'm outpacing Dan Rather. I don't know what that means. It's got a sign from God or something. But if you guys want to support my work on Substack, you will keep me on the list. We will keep moving up the list. It would actually be pretty great, if I'm being honest, to break into the top 10. That would be pretty rad. If everyone watching tonight just signed up on the Substack tonight and sent me $8, I could easily break into the top 10, and then we would have some representation. And that's when we start to make people really scared. I'll tell you that. So that's one of the things you can do to support the work I do, guys. Sign up on the Substack, $8 a month, $80 a year. The link is pinned to the top of the chat, or it is in the description, or it is in my bio and Twitter. And so make it happen, guys. I want to be in that top 10. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. One last announcement before we get started. Now, of course, we do have the Red Menace Supply Company. This is my merchandise store. And we do have a sale going on in the Red Menace Supply Company that you need to know about, because it ends tomorrow. And it's pretty awesome, because every year for Halloween, I do a special limited edition run of some Halloween anti-communist designs. And these are all based off of horror movies, because I love horror movies. The horror movies are pretty much the only type of movie that I watch. And so we've got 4 cool designs. All of these designs are 25% off until tomorrow. We have the collectivism shirt that comes in black or red. I actually have the red one myself, and it looks awesome. We have got the Marxist Utopia of the Dead design, and that comes in a bunch of different colors. We got the brown one. We got some darker brown. We got a lighter color for Judy. This was the most popular design from last year. It actually does look really cool in person. So that is back for this year as well. And then I've got 2 new designs for the store. We've got this one, the Communism, the Boot Never Lifts one. And this one also, I don't have it in red yet, but I will be getting it in red, because that looks cool, man. That looks awesome. And then my personal favorite design that I did for Halloween this year is based off of one of my favorite horror movies, Village of the Damned, except they're doing trans stuff with kids. And that's my Village of the Damned. All right. So all of these designs are available in the in the Red Menace Supply Company for 25% off through tomorrow. They will be in the store through the end of the month, but you can get them on sale until tomorrow. So get them now. It just makes sense. You'll get them by Halloween. It'll be great. Anyway, that's that. All right, before we get into the presentation, we do have to go through our rules for Socialism Saturday for people who are new. First of all, one in the chat if you are new to Socialism Saturday. Is this anyone's first Socialism Saturday? Metaglide, I do sometimes do coffee mugs. There might be coffee mugs in the store right now. I'm not sure, but I do them sometimes. Is this anyone's first time for Socialism Saturday? Bot, it's not your first time. Shut up. Wow. You guys chose fat studies as your first Socialism Saturday experience? Wow. Okay. All right. Well, for newbies, hang on. Jeez. For newbies, Socialism Saturday is not like any other stream on the internet. This is a research stream, and this is a class. So in order to make the most of this experience, I do have some rules for Socialism Saturday, and I need especially the new people to pay attention to the rules video, and then we will get into the stream. Okay, so pay attention. Here you go. All right, for anyone that's new, we have some rules for Socialism Saturday. Let me go over them real quick. Socialism Saturday is a research group and a class. We do take this seriously. You're allowed to have fun. You're allowed to have a drink or two. You're allowed to kind of kick back and joke in the chat. However, I need everyone to understand that when we are researching the radical revolutionary left, we do take this seriously. And so if you're shitposting in my chat, I'm going to tell you to stop. If you are posting off topic in the chat, I'm going to ask you to stop at some point, because it's going to be distracting to what we're doing. I need you to think of yourself as in a classroom. And I'm not talking about an online classroom. I'm talking about a real life classroom, okay? When you walk into a real life classroom, I am the teacher, you are the students. You are sitting in the desk, I am sitting in the front of the classroom. I'm standing there teaching you what is going on. If you were in a real life classroom, you wouldn't walk in, start throwing shit at the wall, yelling, saying, I disagree with you because my best friend said something different. That's not allowed. I don't care about your feelings. I'm not going to coddle your opinion. And that's going to be the way it is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But if you are in my classroom, you will respect my rules and you will listen to me. And if you do not do that, then you will be removed. And how you feel about being removed makes no difference to me at all. The expectation is if you're going to be here and you're going to be watching socialism with us and you're going to be participating in the chat, you are doing it because you are serious about learning this topic and understanding this topic. The minute that I think that you're just fucking around or you're trolling or something like that, you're going to get put in a timeout or permanently banned, and that's just going to be the way it is. Rule number 2, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because I am the queen fascist bitch of my YouTube channel. So I can say and do whatever I want. But if you don't insult me and you don't insult other people in the chat, we're not going to have a problem. So be an adult, rein that shit in. Number 3, no whining. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care if you feel personally attacked. It makes no difference to me at all. And I promise you, I care about your feelings a little bit more than the left does. So if you can't handle me, you can't handle the left. If you start whining and complaining because you don't like the rules or you think you're being treated unfairly, you can just leave, bro. There's the door. You don't have to be here. Number 4, listen. Our job here and why we do Socialism Saturday is to listen to what the left is saying, to listen to what real leftists are doing in the real world. This is not to support your confirmation bias. This is not to support any conservative bullshit narrative that you may have heard on Glenn Beck that one time. This is not to be what you want it to be. This is to engage with reality. We need to listen, we need to actively listen, and we need to understand the left better than they understand themselves. That is the purpose of this exercise, okay? As part of that, I do ask that people refrain from debunking. You do not have a single debunk in your arsenal about the left is stupid because of reasons X, Y, B, and Z, or the left is her hypocrites for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. You don't have a single debunk that we haven't heard before, okay? And every time you put energy into debunking, that is energy that you're not putting into listening. So if I see you debunking, I'm going to tell you to stop because you need to put that energy into listening instead. Lastly, break the rules of my chat or disrespect me in any way, and I'll just kick you out, and that's the way it is. All right, everyone agree to the rules? Everyone on board? If you don't agree to the rules, you can leave now. There's the door. You don't have to announce your departure. Just get up and go. Otherwise, we are going to get this Socialism Saturday started, guys. Please make sure you have mounted the like button for me. There is a shocking disparity between the number of people watching right now and the number of people who have mounted the like button. If you don't feel comfortable mounting it yet because you just met, you can shake the like button's hand, give the like button a high five, put your arm around the like button, give the like button a kiss on the cheek, give the like button a slap on the ass. Do whatever you want to it. It consents. It's totally fine, but do something to the like button while you guys are liking the video. I'm going to take the couple super chats here. Yup, the newbies are a glutton for punishment tonight. It's so true, mass genocide. I say we get Tommy's bail ready just in case. Well, Tommy is fundraising on his own. Tommy's already out of jail. He went to a basketball game last night, so he's doing just fine. You newbies have no idea what you're in for. Yeah, that is true. That is true. That is true. All right, guys, we are watching Fat Liberation as Shared Liberation. This is a real panel that was at the University of Illinois, Chicago. This was back in April, so this is not that old. And let's see what their tax dollars are paying for.
A candidate for an MPH at the school.
Oh, and I don't have the sound set up correctly. Why would I have the sound set up correctly? It's not like I'm a professional streamer on the internet or anything. It's not like I'm a professional streamer on the internet. Okay, take 2.
Cool. And I'm really, really happy to have all of you here with us and with our panelists today to talk about fat liberation as shared liberation. Before we move on, just a little bit about what radical public health is, since I realize it might be a total question mark for some folks. So quick overview, it's a collective of students, alumni, faculty, staff, and community members that seeks to address the systemic underlying causes of public health challenges and consider more radical solutions. So Fat Liberation is one of a handful of working groups we have, and we're really excited to be here to talk about it with all of you and with our panelists today. Next slide, please, Karlyn. Beautiful. So a couple of just quick community guidelines for the event today. We have a more comprehensive document together about this if folks are able to take a
Yeah, this is actually important. Not all fat activism people are fat. So you got to keep in mind, this is part of a broader socialist health thing that they're doing. So not everything these people do is fat studies. So yeah.
quick look. I'll drop it in the chat.
Fat
right
studies is just
now.
one of many
But in general,
things.
we know this is a topic that can be pretty complex and bring up a lot of different feelings and responses. So we just want to make sure this remains a respectful, safe space for everyone involved.
A safe space.
Caroline, I think you stopped sharing. Oh, yeah, you know.
I accidentally opened the community guidelines.
You're good. We can still see the screen. We'll just,
okay, well,
that's perfect. This is letting everyone take a look at the guidelines really fast.
Where's the present button?
It's under share or upper right corner.
There we go.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And obviously there's the QR code there. Okay, next slide, please.
Billy clubs are being swung in Broadview.
So Zoom controls. I realize we've all been in Zoom world for
Oh
so
yeah,
long
are they
now,
beating
but-
them up in Chicago? Can we quickly find a Chicago stream if they're beating the shit out of protesters? Can we do that? Let's see. Is BG on the scene there? Is he live? Yo, breaking news. Hang on, we'll go back to case studies in a second. Look at this. Yo, live in Chicago.
We are in compliance with the executive order.
Yo! Hit him! Hit him! Hit him!
We can protest until 6 p.m. We do not understand your orders. We don't understand why you're creating a violent, volatile situation.
I'm sorry to break in, but this is important. They might beat the shit out of him.
This is the Illinois State Police. Disperse the area, we will arrest you.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Oh, please. Are we going to get some action tonight? Yo! We'll go back to fat studies in a second, guys. This is important. I want to see the socialists get hit in the head. Yeah, time to, like, bash break. Yeah. Oh, it would be so gratifying. It would be so great. One in the chat if you want to see them hit the socialists with the Billy Club. 2 in the chat if you think they cannot hit the socialists with the Billy Club. Yeah, this is like bonus content. Yeah, that's a lot of ones. That's a lot of ones. And we will be doing live protest coverage later, guys, but we're not going to preempt Socialism Saturday for it. The sound issue is on their end. It is not on mine.
And stand
There it
down.
is.
This is the Illinois State Police. You will disperse the area or you will be arrested.
Do it. Do it. Arrest them. Beat the shit out of them. Please do it. Please.
I said that the mayor said we can stay here till 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Chicago time is in 5 minutes. They're allowed to stay until 6 p.m. And then they have to disperse. Let's go. Let's go. The tension is so palatable. This is great. Four minutes until dispersal order. We're interrupting our fat studies programming to watch socialists get the shit kicked out of them in Chicago. Hopefully. That is the dream anyway. You're gonna goon, Rob? That's a good idea. Yeah. That's the right idea. We'll get back to fat studies in a minute, Frank. Settle down. The only thing that will make Karlyn break from socialism studies is socialist ass kicking. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, kneecapping. Yup. Uh-oh, the sound's out again. Not my fault. It'll be back. He's doing it for the music, which is dumb because you don't even get a copyright strike on it anymore. That's why he turned the sound off. It's the music. I don't want to watch Cam Higby. I don't like him. He's funded by Israel. F that guy. Listen, we're going back to Fat Studies, Jerk Store CEO. We've got 3 minutes until the beatdowns commence, okay? 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I wish you would turn the sound back on, but, like, he's got such a good view. He's in the perfect position for it. We have to watch this. Oh, they're moving him back. Uh-oh, they're moving him back. I wish you would turn the sound back on. That's on his end. It's not on mine. Oh. Status quo has sound. Okay. Hang on. I'll get status quo up. You watched the Nino interview? Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is better. Boom. Hey, thanks whatever happened. I have a new voice sample. Oh, thank you.
Let you listen in here on what is happening here near the interaction between police and protesters.
I don't think that's her, whatever happened, but good work. Oh!
Police shoving, pushing.
Yes! Do it. Do it. Thanks, Cindy. Yeah, it was a great interview. What did Willy Wonka say? The suspense is killing me. I hope it'll last.
Again, police have been doing this. They move up a little bit, and then they stop.
1
It's
minute
been
till
the slow
dispersal
advance
order.
down 25th Street, away from the intersection, away
1
from the
minute
intersection with
until
Harvard. That is
dispersal.
the approach to the ICE facility here in Broadview, Illinois.
Silent cops are guilty too! Silent cops are guilty too! Silent cops are guilty too!
All right, dispersal. Arrest their asses. Do something, please. We've got fat studies to watch.
The people united
I don't know what that means, but thank you.
The people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated. No gods, no masters.
We'll never be defeated. We'll never be defeated.
Beat their asses.
Police now again moving up.
Yup.
Pushing the protesters back.
Beavis loves violence. Okay, I haven't watched that show in years, so I don't know. I'll take your word for it. Doesn't everyone love violence when it comes to communist stuff? They're supposed to disperse now. You can beat them up. It's okay.
Yeah, we're showing you here the crowd out behind the line of protesters that are up against the police. Oh, police now shoving again.
Yes. Beat their asses. Beat their asses. Do it.
The rate of advance has been chaotic. Police will take several holding steps forward, then hold a line, stand there for a while, then move forward slowly again, and then suddenly burst forward. Hard to see what exactly triggers that, if that's an order or something from the crowd. Now the rate of movement here is a little bit faster. We're moving the folks here a little bit faster. I want to note about what a fucking shit show this is out here.
Yeah.
ICE antagonizes the crowd, provokes this reaction. Illinois State Police step in.
ICE is
and
antagonizing.
Now
ICE
it's
is
between
antagonizing.
Illinois State Police and the protesters.
Okay.
ICE.
So I've seen Antifa. The person in the mask right there is Antifa. This is Antifa. This is Antifa. This is Antifa over here. I also see immigrant rights groups. Those are not the same as Antifa, no matter how many Republicans say they are. So that's, I think, who's in the majority of the crowd right now. It's mostly immigrant rights groups. That's who's been protesting in Chicago, but you definitely also have Antifa dispersed in the crowd as well. I don't see Party for Socialism and Liberation or anything like that. There's a whole bunch of press there, obviously, but that's basically who you're going to see.
Judging by how they had been leaving the area when police ordered them to out of the designated protest areas, they were content to do so. Really, the consternation with the crowd came when police asked them to disperse 20 minutes or more before that 6 o'clock curfew on protesting here in the village of Broadview.
Okay, but now it's past the 6 o'clock curfew, so disperse. They should start beating the shit out of people now.
No doubt, ICE agents or DHS officials somewhere laughing at this. Oh, and there we go. We see police rushing forward to grab some folks.
Yes.
Rushing forward, pushing folks to the ground. People collapsing onto the ground. The people are forced back as they execute an arrest. Arresting someone from the crowd.
Yeah, bro.
Police extend their line here onto the grass in front of some, looks like an apartment building.
Disperse, assholes.
Protesters moving here to link arms with one another.
Oh, they got another one. They got a woman. That's an immigrant rights protester.
And this is the frustration that the protesters have repeatedly expressed. They feel like state police, local authorities here are in effect
There's another
serving
one.
the federal government and ICE in its operations here in the Chicagoland
Antifa.
area by keeping these roadways clear, not allowing them to engage in any civil disobedience or any protest that might block just the approach to the ICE facility. And an attempt to slow down some of the ICE operations. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, has said that the state police are here to protect protesters. And yet what we've seen here on the ground are police approaching, shoving protesters to the ground and arresting them. But when ICE agents advanced as they did last week Friday, advanced into the crowd out here, when they advanced into the crowd and began throwing protesters.
Guys, for people who are just joining, we are going to be going back to our fat studies presentation, but we are cutting in with breaking news because the police in Chicago seem poised to beat the shit out of the protesters. And so I want to watch this live. This is live outside the Broadview facility. They're trying to break up the protest, and they have billy clubs, and they're arresting people. So we are taking a brief break from our fat studies presentation, which we will be going back to when this has concluded. Please mount the like button if you would be so kind. Always got to be
And now
flexible,
police
man.
are in
Breaking news.
one unbroken line here from a metal gate on one side of 25th Street all the way up
Yeah,
against
the
the
cops are doing
apartment
their own
buildings on
version
the
of fat
far
studies.
side.
It's quiet again.
You see some protesters here wearing their gas masks.
Yeah, Dom.
Many wearing helmets, goggles. Just being prepared for what might happen. Press also wearing protection in case they're caught in the middle.
I want
of
to see
what
tear gas.
officers
I want to see billy
might do
clubs.
here.
I don't
That's
know what police
confusion.
are.
That's
They
the
look like
emotion that we've heard expressed over and over here from these
Confusion.
protesters.
Yeah, we're just very confused.
They were supposed to be allowed to stay in the
We're
designated
very
protest zone until
confused
6
about what's
o'clock.
happening.
What's that?
This is the Illinois State Police.
Don't protect them!
This is the Illinois State Police. This is an unlawful assembly.
Yeah.
You are being ordered to disperse the area, or you will be arrested. Disperse the area, or you will be arrested. You first!
Police just repeatedly telling people to disperse or they will be arrested.
This is the Illinois State Police. This is an unlawful assembly in violation of Illinois law. You are required to leave. If you
Get
do
the
not
fuck
leave the
out.
area within the next 30 seconds,
30 seconds.
you will be subjected to arrest.
Yeah. Beat their
You're
asses.
subjected to chemical agents.
Ooh. Tear gas. Tear gas.
Other
Yes.
reasonable force to effect your arrest.
Yes.
Disperse the area and go home now.
Yeah.
Police making reference there to chemical agents that might be tear gas,
Bash
that might be
back,
pepper spray, pepper
motherfuckers.
balls.
Bash
These are
back. Look at this
tactics that
asshole.
we've seen
Look at
authorities
this
out here
guy.
use. Normally, it's been ICE. Now we're seeing Illinois State Police saying that they're going to use those same tactics
What a
against
tool.
this group of protesters. And Illinois Governor
Those 50
J.B.
videos of
Pritzker
Jan Hinckley
has
being
said
surrounded by
that these police
protesters
are here to
can't
protect
appreciate
these
it.
protesters.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, here they
It's all
go. They're
happening.
advancing.
Oh, this is so
We've seen
great.
the crowd. They had moved
Oh
back
my
as
God.
the police
I
had
haven't been this
repeatedly
turned on
threatened
in
arrest.
years.
So now there's a much bigger gulf between
Oh my
officers and the
God.
crowd.
Please let something happen. Please do not let this be anticlimactic. Please,
You can see
please
that long,
let this
unbroken
be
line of
amazing
Illinois
and
State
awesome and
Police.
everything we've been waiting for.
In their riot gear.
Is anyone else turned on? I'm really
Again, chanting, move back, and we've got one protester
Not to share
dancing
too much
along to the
information,
beat.
but
Protesters have attempted to bring levity to the situation out here and other places where they're protesting the federal government.
yeah, my own husband can't compete with this. True. Hey, we've been married for 14 years. Give the guy a break. This is like a new lover. This is like taking
Police
someone's clothes off for
halting
the first
again.
time.
Oh no, continuing forward slowly. They're trying to keep that one unbroken line.
Give Victor a billy club.
Yeah,
That's not a bad idea.
they've got a police canine out here that was barking into the
Not a bad
loudspeaker
idea.
that they have.
There's a dog.
Yeah, that barking that you're hearing. That's the police K9 unit.
Guys, we are waiting for the police to start arresting protesters. We will
This
be
crowd of
returning to
protesters
Fat
now much
Liberation
smaller
soon.
than
This
it
is in
was
Chicago.
even just a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
It's like
let
some
the
may have
dog
spilled
out.
down onto side streets. See that one lone protester there holding a sign, standing the closest
Get her.
to law
Get her.
enforcement.
Get her.
Sign says, "No gods, no masters."
That's Antifa. Anytime you see no gods, no masters, that is a very common slogan on the far left. That's Antifa. That's an iconic picture, though. That's an iconic image right there. They're going to make that into like a t-shirt or something. The left knows how to do imagery like this.
This is the live scene here in Broadview, Illinois.
Get her.
This is Colonel Owen of the Illinois State Police. We don't understand your violation of Illinois law. What law? You are required to leave. If you do not leave the area within the next 30 seconds, you will be subject to arrest. You may be subject to chemical agents, pain compliance techniques, or other reasonable force.
Pain compliance techniques.
Leave now.
He just said they're gonna be subjected to pain compliance technique. I hope so.
You're not explaining yourself.
Police reshifting their line here. Looks like trying to create more of an even distribution of officers, or troopers rather, they're state police.
Come on.
Across the street.
They're edging us. This isn't fair. Stop fucking edging us and just beat the shit out of them and arrest them. This is almost intolerable. This isn't fair.
Now we see police working their way around, creating somewhat of a perimeter out here. Yep, they're making a perimeter. Don't see them moving around to block this side street at all. It might be that they're attempting to swing this group of protesters
I don't
down the
mind
side
edging. There's
street.
just time and there's a time and a place, and if it goes on for too long, it gets really frustrating. That's all I'm saying.
Unclear exactly what their next move is going to be. Protesters backing way off now just to be sure that they are well clear, because there's that sense of unease in the air. These protesters didn't want to be here protesting the Illinois State Police.
Oh, yeah,
wanted
they
to
didn't want to
much
be there.
closer to the
Okay,
ICE
then they can
facility,
leave.
and they wanted to be
Oh, they're
protesting
peddling
the
them.
federal government. This interaction with state police was baited by a Department of Homeland Security vehicle and antagonized the protesters and brought some protesters into the street. Police then came out in all of this
Yeah,
riot
they're
gear,
just peddling them.
and protesters then started to stand their ground. You see police now advancing towards the sidewalk as they seek to continue to create this perimeter. Yeah, they are moving folks into the street here. And police saying, "Move back, move back." And then stopping right at the edge of the street. Many of these protesters are now being funneled down this side street here, just off of 25th.
Yeah, 30 seconds was up a while ago.
Push
This is why
towards
no one takes the
Fillmore
police
Street.
seriously. Like, for real, though. There's a reason the far left doesn't take the police seriously and doesn't take the Trump administration seriously, and that's because they keep threatening to do something, and then they don't do it. They were supposed to have dispersed 16 minutes ago. We have delayed Socialism Saturday by 20 fucking minutes. We haven't seen any action. It's really disappointing. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back to Socialism Saturday, and we're gonna put this in the upper. We're gonna put this above my head so we can monitor it, because I think they're gonna be standing around for a while. Glad to see ISP is on it. Illinois is more red. It's Chicago and surrounding burbs. It's blue. I don't know, man. I don't know if they are on it, but I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you for that. No Marx, no Lenin will pepperball your denim. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I wish they would be pepperballing them, Robert, but they're not pepperballing them. They're not. They're not. This is a tease. It's not fair. But what I'm going to do, because I feel like this is just going to go on for a while, and they're going to kettle them, and they're not going to be any fights or anything. But if there are fights, we'll be able to see it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this above my head so we can monitor the situation. And that way we can go back to fat liberation, and we can do our fat studies and monitor the situation in Chicago at exactly the same time. And if anything fun happens, like they start beating people up, we'll immediately go back to it, okay? So let me see. Get my virtual camera up. Put this above my head. That way you guys can see it. There we go. There we go. Now we have... Oh, no! Wrong thing. Hang on. Uh-oh. There we go. That's better. Now we have them above my head. So we can let that go. That, you know, it could have been so great, but I just feel like it's just going to keep going on like this. And they're going to be massive pussies about it. And that sucks. Because it's like the reason the left doesn't take all this stuff seriously is because the cops never beat the shit out of them. The cops keep saying, we will use force, we will use chemical weapons, we will do this, we will do that, and then nothing ever happens. So we'll go back to it if something starts to happen, but let's return to our program for the evening. Socialism doesn't rest just because people are getting beat up in Chicago. All right, we're going back to fat liberation, guys. If you just got here, you haven't missed much, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
But as just a quick reminder, we do have a lot of people on this panel, and we want to make sure everyone gets a chance to hear our speakers. So please stay muted for the whole event. If you have questions or comments, absolutely drop them in the chat. We have a handful of folks on the team tracking those, and we are going to have 30-ish at the end of the session to dive into all of those questions. So please drop them, and we'll make sure we get to them. And with that, oh yes, I forgot about this. So I know many of you who probably saw our flyers know that we originally had 4 speakers slated for this. Unfortunately, Sydney had some very positive things happen for them, but they unfortunately can't join the event anymore. That said, we still have Dr. Peralta and Virgie and Autumn. It's going to be a wonderful conversation.
I know, it's a big letdown. It's a big letdown. It was edging without release.
So some quick overviews of who you're going to be in conversation with today. So Autumn Miller is a scholar activist of fat studies, abolition, and racial capitalism. As a PhD student in gender and women's studies, her research centers around framing anti-fatness as key for the maintenance of the state overall. Dr. Monica Peralta is a Nicaraguan born and based physician, diabetes educator, and certified counselor specializing in intuitive eating, mindful eating,
without
and body
any
liberation.
irony at all.
She leads a private practice where she offers compassionate, weight-inclusive care.
A diabetes.
And Virgie Tovar is a plus-size Latina author, lecturer, and leading expert on weight-based discrimination and body positivity with over a decade of experience. She is a contributor for Forbes.com, where she covers the plus-size market and how to end weight discrimination at work. And with that, beautiful Caroline on top of things, we can pin our panelists and get into, oh, and me, hello, dive into our first question, which I am going to kick over to Virgie to kick us off here, which is just before we get into the meat of the panel questions, is there anything else about your bio or your background that you want to add for our community to know today? All good.
Okay, great.
There we go.
Virgie.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I've written a few books on the topic, including the book You Have the Right to Remain Fat. And that came out in 2018. And also, when I was very early on in my work, I an anthology called Hot and Heavy Fierce Fat Girls on Life, Love, and Fashion. And that was like 2012. So yeah, I mean, the kind of just kind of writing has been a really, really important and big part of my work. And that's all that I was going to add. So thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Peralta, I'll hand it to you next. The mute button is no one's friend today.
Well, nice to meet you. My name is Monica. I don't have anything to add to my bio. I think you did an incredible job, Megan. You make me sound nice, so good. Well, you know, for answering the question, what does fat liberation means to me, is both personal and political. It's the fight for a right to exist in fat bodies without shame, punishment, or surveillance. And I wish I could say there's no fight, but as a fat Latina physician, I've seen how fat phobia isn't just personal bias. It's embedded in our health systems, our institutions, our
A fat Latina physician. This person is a medical doctor.
culture. It denies care, it blames bodies, it causes harm. So for me, the center
There's a question on Rumble and I want to address it. Can you 1.25 or 1.5 times this? No, we don't do that here. I understand why you're asking, but I want to make it really clear why we don't. When you are increasing the speed of something, you're not actually trying to listen to it. Our goal here is to actually listen to these people and to understand what they're saying. So we don't listen to things on 1.5 times speed unless absolutely necessary. We listen to it on normal. This is we do it the hard way, no fucking shortcuts. But I appreciate you asking, and I understand why you did.
of fat liberation means rejecting those systems. It's not just about pushing back against diets or diet culture or weight loss. It's about undoing the deeper story that says fatness is failure. It's about building a world where bodies are not judged by their size, but instead we could honor our complexity as human beings, our ability to feel joy, our wisdom, our humanity, that I think we are lacking of humanity so much right
Wait,
now
they're
in the
dancing
world.
in the street. What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Autumn, I want to hand it to you to get a chance to, you know, add anything to your bio and just build on Dr. Peralta there. If there's what does fat liberation look like to you?
Hang on. Whatever happened, her real name is Cora Siegel. In her work, she notes winning the Irving K. Zola Award in 2021. You think Zora Siegel is Autumn Miller? Let me just pull this up. She didn't go to Brandeis that. Wait. Yo! Did you find her? Did we get an Autumn Miller photo? Holy shit. Holy shit. We need to confirm this. No one get too excited. But it seems as though whatever happens over on Rumble has determined that Autumn Miller's real name, and this is based on where they studied and an award that they got, this is Autumn Miller. Autumn Miller's real name is not Autumn Miller. Autumn Miller's real name is Cora Siegel. And whatever happens, you know this because they got the same award that Autumn Miller said they got, right? Because I know for a fact that Autumn Miller is a student, a gender studies student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That absolutely lines up. It lines up with the year that she would be like the year she is in college. Holy shit. We need to confirm this, but we need to look. So I know in the past we found Autumn Miller's like resume, and I know she's at that university, and I know she's a gender studies person at that university at that time period. Did Autumn Miller put on a resume somewhere that she got the 2021 Irving K. Zola Award? Because this absolutely looks like it could be the same person. That is the closest we've gotten yet to a photo of Autumn Miller. Okay, we just need to figure out if it's the same person now. Great work. Excellent sleuthing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan, for that question. And thank you to my wonderful colleagues at RPH for organizing this and for moderating. Also, thank you to my co-panelists. I'm really honored to be here today. I don't have anything to add to my bio. My name is Autumn. I use she, her pronouns. So my approach to fat liberation is both kind of in my role as a scholar and also kind of my like lived experience as a fat person, especially someone who's on the like larger end of the fat spectrum.
Larger end
To
of the
me,
fat
fat liberation is a revolutionary social movement that's rooted in the belief that fat bodies have inherent value. It challenges how capitalism and the state view bodies as machines for work and productivity.
Oh, I just want to go back to that. So the left's enemy is always capitalism. I have to review this for people who are new. The left's enemy is always 100% of the time capitalism. Every single thing the left does is about trying to abolish capitalism, from critical race theory to gender ideology, queer studies, the pro-Palestine protests, abolish the police, abolish the nuclear family, climate change, all of it. Every single thing the left does is always and forever about abolishing capitalism. Fat Studies is no different. Fat Studies is all about the capitalist imposed beauty standards that the evil capitalists put on society and undermining the normativity of the capitalist imposed beauty standards. I bring this up because within 30 seconds of opening her fat fucking mouth, Autumn Miller tells us this is about capitalism. So I just want everyone to hear this again.
As a fat person, especially someone who's on the like larger end of the fat spectrum. To me, fat liberation is a revolutionary social movement that's rooted in the belief that fat bodies have inherent value. It challenges how capitalism and the state view bodies as machines for work and productivity. Fat liberation.
How what does it say? Challenges how capitalism and the state views fat bodies for work and productivity. Okay. We have another link from Whatever Happens. Yes, this is okay. Here's another piece of evidence that this is actually Autumn Miller. Okay. So this is the study that Whatever Happens over on Rumble found. And look at this. So the study is cited as Autumn Miller, but the rights of the study are Cora Siegel. I think that that's pretty compelling evidence. I think that's pretty compelling evidence that Autumn Miller and Cora Siegel might be the same person. Wow. Good sleuthing, man. Good sleuthing. Good sleuthing. Excellent. Misa Can confirmed it as well. Hang on, let me get into the hang on, I gotta get into the other chat to get that link. Excellent work, guys. Here's another thing. This is another thing that they presented at Autumn Miller. Where does this say Cora Siegel? Oh, this is the award. This is, yes, the Autumn Miller, the recipient of the Social Disability Studies 2021 Irving K. Zola Award. Oh, wait, look at this. Cora Siegel, the recipient of the 2021, we did it. We did it. Fucking mystery solved. This is why we couldn't find Autumn Miller last time, because Autumn Miller's real name is Cora Siegel. Excellent work. Excellent work, internet. Confirmed. This is who we're listening to right now. And this is why they don't want their picture on the internet, because they're using a fake fucking name. And now we got her. Now we got her. Excellent job, guys. Really, really, really well done. Man, I love having more people in this community. This is awesome. Okay, now listen, everyone pay attention.
View bodies as machines for work and productivity. Fat Fat liberation to me is recognizes that anti-fatness is produced and implemented through other power structures like anti-blackness, colonization, not unlike what's happening in Palestine right now through genocide.
Oh, we got to go back and listen to this whole thing again. Okay, just listen to all the areas that fat studies intersects with.
A lived experience as a fat person, especially someone who's on the larger end of the fat spectrum. To me, fat liberation is a revolutionary social movement that's rooted in the belief that fat bodies have inherent value. It challenges how capitalism and the state view bodies as machines for work and productivity. Fat liberation to me is recognizes that anti-fatness is produced and implemented through other power structures like anti-blackness, colonization, not unlike what's happening in Palestine right now through genocide, capitalism, particularly if we think about how anti-fatness is employed as a mean of kind of managing and regulating populations. Especially through discourse around kind of anti-obesity intervention, or most recently kind of the billion-dollar weight loss industry, and how corporations that are producing weight loss medications are marketing this idea, this very terrifying idea of eradicating bodily
Anti-fatness is
diversity.
capitalism.
All of our bodies hold ancestral memories and legacies of joy and survival. For example, as a fat Jewish woman, my body is a gift that was passed down from my ancestors who survived pogroms and famines. It's kind of a testament to the radical kind of anti-capitalist Jewish legacy of.
I'm sorry, what? I don't remember hearing this the last time I listened to this, but maybe I did. Her body is handed down. Is Amalek still here? Her body is handed down from her Jewish ancestors, and her body is a legacy of a radical anti-capitalist Jewish legacy. Whatever happened over on Rumble. If you have more challenges, let me know. I don't care about fatties, just commies all suck. Hey, we do regular challenges on the channel. Glad to have you here, whatever happens. Every single time. Every single time.
All of our bodies hold ancestral memories and legacies of joy and survival. For example, as a fat Jewish woman, my body is a gift that was passed down from my ancestors who survived pogroms and famines. It's kind of a testament to the radical kind of anti-capitalist Jewish legacy of being a diasporic people who defy state legibility and state aspirations. I think fat liberation affirms that health is multidimensional. It's not a moral obligation or a measure of anyone's worth. At the same time, fat liberation simultaneously kind of disrupts the weight normative health paradigm that falsely equates weight with metabolic health or health-related behaviors.
The weight normative health paradigm. So what they're saying is that medicine assumes that if you are fat, you are unhealthy. And that is a weight normative health paradigm. And fat studies seeks to break normativity in medicine to say that fat people can be healthy too.
It's not a moral obligation or a measure of anyone's worth. At the same time, fat liberation simultaneously kind of disrupts the weight normative health paradigm that falsely equates weight with metabolic health or health-related behaviors. It's impossible to look at someone and tell how healthy they are or what they eat, how much they exercise. Instead, we know that health-promoting behaviors like pleasurable movement and eating a wide variety of foods are beneficial for people of all sizes. The real threats to fat people's health are weight stigma within the healthcare system and the overall kind of stress and trauma that is caused by anti-fatness. Fat liberation of
the real threat to fat people is people calling them fat, guys. The real threat to fat people is fat shaming, and it is people telling other people to lose weight.
Affirms that bodily diversity and the existence of fat people are a natural and harmless part of human variation.
Amazing. Thank you. Fergie, I wanted to give you the opportunity to also address what is fat liberation to you?
Yeah, it keeps giving me it keeps having a pop-up that says the host doesn't let me unmute. So that's kind of what I think is happening maybe with all of us. I'm not sure. Anyway, but yeah, thank you for this question. I immediately think about the Fat Liberation Manifesto. I'm going to put a link to it in the chat.
The Fat
And
Liberation
it was
Manifesto.
a document written by the activist group, the Fat Underground.
Yeah.
And the Fat Underground emerged. I kind of want to share a little bit of this story because I think it's so beautiful and interesting. But you know, the very first documented political gathering around fatness.
Hang on. I just want to show you guys something real quick. Look at oh shit, they just went back, but let me just rewind a second in Chicago. Look at the green hats. The green hats are right there in Chicago. You see that? Those are the lawyers. They got the green hats out in Chicago. Okay, back to this.
In terms of, you know, fat liberation, fat activism was in, I think, 1968 in Central Park. And the New York Times actually covered it, and it was called a fat in, and people came with signs and they burned diet books, and it was this really cool, interesting gathering with a few hundred people. And from that gathering, some key people in the history of some of the history of fat activism, you know, were really inspired. So from that kind of gathering emerged the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, or NAFA, which I'll also put in.
The National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. I just want to point out to people that you can literally just do things. You don't need to wait for anyone to give you permission. You can just do things. The left just does things all the time. They just do things like create an organization called the National Association for the Acceptance of Fat People. That's a crazy fucking thing. That's crazy. But they did it, and they're probably raising a lot of money doing it, and they're doing their thing. And I just want to point out that, this is why I created the Center for Left-Wing Studies. It was literally a response to the left always just doing things like this. And I was like, why can't I do this too? And it turns out I can. It turns out I can just create a nonprofit to study shit too. So we need more people that are just doing things on our side. And if you think that you can't do it, if you think that you can't achieve this dream, just remember that someone created an organization for the advancement of fat acceptance.
The chat. And NAFA was really about kind of getting equal rights for people in larger bodies. It was an acceptance-based politic.
Yeah.
It wasn't particularly radical. You know, it was pretty, I would say it was a pretty a pretty respectability oriented, political organization. And very quickly, NAFA created an opportunity for people to open up chapters all over the country. So you could just open up your own chapter, and they would kind of correspond with you.
You could just open up your own chapter.
There was one sort of particularly radical.
You could just do shit.
Chapter of NAFA that was mostly women, mostly people who are from the radical therapy movement. And I think
therapy.
It's a little bit unclear to me from my recollection of kind of reading about that time, but I think I'm pretty sure that almost all of them, or most of them, were queer women as well. So right away they took
Hang on, whatever happens has just sent me a $1 Rumble rant. This shit is deep. What did you just find on YouTube? Oh, no. I'm not I'm not watching Crowder right now. No, don't I feel like you just tried to rickroll me whatever happens. That's not fair.
They sort of took on intersectionality. They were very inspired by the Black Power movement. And, almost immediately NAFA was like, okay, y'all need to calm down. We're not doing that. We're doing single issue politics, and we're wearing suits, right? Understandable. But then they decided to create their own thing, and it became the Fat Underground. And you can
Fat
kind of tell even
Underground.
from the name, like it sort of was a bold statement about, you know, what their desires and hopes were. So I mean, anyway, but that's kind of the background of that. The Fat Underground emerged in the, you know, the late 60s, early 70s, and they wrote this document, the Fat Liberation Manifesto. And the demands were very straightforward. So I kind of want to contextualize and say, on the one hand, right, I'm thinking of this document, this is their version of, you know, liberation. And I kind of want to build from that, because really what they're asking for is basic human rights. They're not, I wouldn't say they're asking for liberation. However, you know, I think it says something that they're just asking for basic human rights. But in the document, the demands are pretty simple. Like, we want equal access to medical care, and we want equal pay. We want dignity. We want to, you know, not be scapegoated by the diet industry. And we see our movement in alignment with other oppressed movements, other movements of, you know, agitation of marginalized people. And as you kind of go down the list, you can see how little has changed from 1973, when this document was released, to now. And in fact, we're in the biggest push for diet culture, you know, I personally have ever seen in my 42 years of life. I just was looking at the history of diet pills. The first diet pill was in like 1873 or 1893. Anyway, the point is, right, the diet industry is stronger than ever, which is both, you know, interesting on so many levels, which I can get into that later. But anyway, so higher wage people still don't have equal access to preventive medical care. There's still a wage gap between higher wage people and straight sized people. And fundamentally, again, you know, higher wage people are denied basic human rights. So when I think about liberation, I'm thinking, okay, we already have a world where those basic human rights, which we do not have right now, are granted to us, or, you know, or we agitate for them and we successfully attain them. But I think for me, it's like, you know, when I think about what I'm working towards, I kind of think about, what does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it look like when the world that I'm fighting for? And it really is a world of like joy and pleasure and
Joy and
safety,
pleasure.
for people in all bodies. Where
Hang on. Whatever happens says she has a internet personality called Trigglepuff did stupid crap at Crowder Docs change to Autumn Wait, what? She has an internet personality called You're saying that Autumn Miller has an internet personality called Trigglepuff, and she did stupid crap at a Crowder Doc changed to Autumn allegations of squatting. Okay, whatever happened, can you translate your Rumble rant for me? Just put it in the chat. You don't have to pay me money for it. But like you're missing some words, and I don't really understand what you're saying, but I think you might be saying that Autumn Miller had something to do with Crowder, and that's why she changed her name. Is this okay? Maybe he wasn't rickrolling me. Maybe he was actually just giving me a helpful piece of information. No. No, 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 no. This can't be it. No. Are you serious? Hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Okay. This is Autumn Miller, okay? Otherwise known as Cora Siegel. That's her real name, but she goes by Autumn Miller. This is her right here. I want everyone to watch this video. Maybe whatever happens was giving, he wasn't rickrolling me. He was giving me a helpful piece of information. I want everyone to watch this video.
Get triggered.
This brand is monster. Is he gonna check his privilege? That's not going to happen. Listen. Listen, nobody here wants to hear your opinion. Here's what's so crazy. You're not fighting for rights. You're fighting for the right to be a pussy.
Hang on, that was a good screen grab. Hang on.
Listen, nobody here wants to hear your opinion. Here's what's so crazy. You're not fighting for rights. You're fighting.
Is it possible? Is it possible that it's the same person? Is that fucking possible? Did we literally find the woman in the meme doing fat liberation presentations at colleges? Did we literally do that? And she had to change her name and take her picture off the internet because she was the meme? And that's why she's no longer on the internet? Holy shit. This is like the find of the fat studies century right here. Holy shit. I think that could be the same person. That could actually be the same fucking person. Wow. 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 That, whatever happens, that is some next level internet sleuthing that you just did there. Wow. That's crazy. All right. Yeah, we need to do like a facial recognition study on this at some point. But I think that's a really good lead. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. That's crazy.
It's not, it's not some massive act of quote unquote bravery to like wear shorts if you're in a bigger body. And it doesn't feel scary to want to, find a romantic partner who respects you. Where these things just feel like they're given, and they're given to all of us, and bodies aren't used as a way to hierarchize people. They're used as a way to connect. So that's kind of a long answer, but that's my answer.
No, that's perfect. I mean, and I think something I'm hearing across all three of your answers is bodies, period, have inherent value and shouldn't be, seems so obvious, but shouldn't be judged based on a size or a weight.
Hey,
and which is
awesome two
obviously
girls.
why we're here
Thank
today.
you.
So thank you so much, all of you, for that. And Virgie, you kind of started to touch on this and the intersectionality of fat liberation, even going back to the 60s. But I'm curious how all of you see an intersection between fat liberation and other liberation movements today or in history. And Dr. Peralta,
Hang on. Before we get into that, pop quiz for the chat. What does liberation mean? When we're speaking leftist, what do they mean when they say liberation? Liberate from what? It's always the same answer, regardless of whether you're talking about race or gender or queer or police or fat or disability. What do they mean when they say liberation? Liberation means overthrowing capitalism. Yup, to free oneself from capitalism, freedom from the oppressive force of capitalism. Exactly. So that's what they mean when they say that. When we're talking about intersectionality, intersectionality is essentially means all of the different ways in which you are oppressed by capitalism.
Kick it over to you to start us off there.
Well
I
done.
think when we talk about fat liberation, we also talk about fat phobia. And fat phobia, it's not just about body size. It's one expression of carceral capitalist white supremacy system. It punishes bodies that don't.
I'm sorry. What was that? Fat phobia is not just about body size. Fat phobia is about the white supremacist capitalist carceral system. Again.
Fat liberation, we also talk about fat phobia. And fat phobia, it's not just about body size. It's one expression of carceral capitalist white supremacy system.
You don't say.
It punishes bodies that don't conform. It disciplines, surveils, and denies care. So the intersection for me between fat liberation and other liberation movements is structural, because for me, everything is systemic. So we cannot separate fat liberation because it intersects with Black liberation, abolition, disability justice, reproductive justice, decolonization, because it fights the same systems that wants to control and give us this hierarchy of bodies, of races. And, anti-fatness is rooted in anti-Blackness.
That is
It
Kunu
comes from
out.
colonial narratives that paint
Anti-fatness is rooted in anti-blackness. I wonder why that is.
wants to control and give us this.
Oh, shit. Hang on. My B. I didn't mean to stop sharing that. Hang on. I hit a button somewhere and it stopped sharing the thing I wanted to share. There you go.
Decolonization, because it fights the same systems that wants to control and give us this hierarchy of bodies, of races. And, anti-fatness is rooted in anti-Blackness.
Oh,
It
yeah?
comes from colonial narratives that painted Black and Indigenous bodies as excessive, unruly, in need of domination. Capitalism reinforces this by rewarding thinness as discipline and punishing fatness as moral failure.
Capitalism rewards thinness as discipline and punishes fatness as moral failure because the root of what they're trying to do with fat liberation is about abolishing capitalism, just like every other thing the left does.
And, I'm a doctor, so the medical and legal
Doctor.
systems uphold it by pathologizing, blaming, and withholding care from fat people, especially those who are also racialized, disabled, poor, or femme. So for me, fat liberation also imagines something different, a world where nobody's punished for existing, where we might replace control for care, where worth is never conditional, nor conditional of a body type. That's the intersection, the shared roots, the shared resistance, shared vision. If we don't confront body hierarchy, we risk reproducing the same violence
Body
we
hierarchy.
claim to fight. Fat liberation isn't an afterthought. It has to be essential on the collective liberation. We all have to fight for that freedom.
Fat liberation is essential to our collective liberation from capitalism.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I totally hear you. I think across many movements today, especially in the States, but abroad as well, we're seeing so much more the idea that you can't exist in silos. These movements can't exist in silos. So I think you're really speaking to that too. Autumn, I want to give the same question to you. What kind of intersections are you seeing across liberatory movements?
Yeah. So I think I echo everything that Dr. Peralta said. I think about how anti-fatness is maintained and is part of the maintenance kind of capitalism, and how kind of
Anti-fatness maintains and is part of the maintenance of capitalism.
I think about how anti-fatness is maintained and is part of the maintenance kind of capitalism, and how kind of under sort of the intersection of anti-fatness and capitalism, the body is almost like positioned as being this kind of commodity that needs to be like disciplined and managed by medicine. I guess my kind of approach to fat liberation specifically comes from anarchism, which in very specific terms refers to kind of like a non-prescriptive approach to building a.
When she says anarchism, she does not mean an anarcho-capitalism. People need to understand this. When she said there are different types of anarchism. Like you can be an anarcho-capitalist and want to get rid of the government, but still want to maintain private property. When she is saying anarchism, she's saying anarcho-communism, which means getting rid of the government and getting rid of private property. So that's the communist end of the spectrum. But not all anarchists are communists.
My kind of approach to fat liberation specifically comes from anarchism, which in very specific terms refers to kind of like a non-prescriptive approach to building a world beyond hierarchies, with the knowledge that true liberation only comes from the complete abolition of capitalism, the state, and all forms of hierarchy.
Oh, true liberation comes from the complete abolition of capitalism, and they want to eliminate all hierarchies because the left believes that all hierarchies are created by capitalism. You cannot eliminate hierarchies without eliminating capitalism. Every time you have a hierarchy, you have oppression. Hope everyone understands that. Guys, we're going rather quick tonight, so if there are any newbies in the chat and you're just feeling overwhelmed because this is your first Socialism Saturday, it's totally fine to ask us to slow down and to make sure we're really defining terms. When the left says capitalism, they mean private property ownership. That means your ability to own a home, land, apartment rental that you rent out as a landlord, your ability to own intellectual property, your ability to own a private business, whether that is big or small, and your parental rights over your kids are also considered to be a form of capitalism. So when they're talking about abolishing capitalism, that's what they mean. They want to abolish capitalism because they believe capitalism creates all oppression. How it creates all oppression is it creates all hierarchies. Equity or Marxism is a world without hierarchies. I know that's review for a lot of people, but just in there are a lot of new people here. So I want to make sure the new people are really understanding what's being said. If you guys have questions, I know some of you are scared to ask questions because you think I'll yell at you. I will never yell at you if you are asking good faith questions. I only yell at people who are being dicks. Well, if you don't work in the socialist utopia, you don't eat because they control the food supply. You also don't get a place to live because they control all the housing. You don't get access to energy or gasoline because they control all that too. So everyone works in the socialist utopia because if you don't work, you don't eat.
I guess my kind of approach to fat liberation specifically comes from anarchism, which in very specific terms refers to kind of like a non-prescriptive approach to building a world beyond hierarchies, with the knowledge that true liberation only comes from the complete abolition of capitalism, the state, and all forms of hierarchy. In a very kind of like crude way by the state, I mean this kind of like apparatus of social engineering and domination that erases kind of like previously existing complex relationships and modes of being, including obviously body diversity. Part of how the state maintains its legitimacy is through seeing like peoples and populations as requiring like governance and management, again often through like body management. I think like kind of now the most kind of some of the most like striking like ways in which I
Hang on. Kenny's asking a question that will illustrate a concept for a lot of people. Let's say they win, they have a national commune. What's to stop another country from invading and taking their shit? The left does not believe that they will win until communism is worldwide. The left believes that communism, in order to be real communism, needs to be global. So in the left's win, there are no other capitalist countries. The reason they want to do communism in the United States is because they believe the United States is the biggest domino that needs to fall in order to get communism on a worldwide stage. So they have not won. They haven't won just because they get the United States. They will consider it to be won when they get the entire world. Oh, it'll never happen? It'll never happen. Really. Really. Because right now we have anarchists that have been protesting outside of ICE facilities for months and months and months, and the government hasn't done anything about it. We're about to have another large-scale national protest that the government's not going to do anything about. And if you want to get really brass tacks about it, you're telling me that it won't happen? They are attacking parental rights in school all the time. Do you want to know why teachers have been allowed to trans and queer your little darlings in public school? Because of attacks on parental rights that come from this movement. So don't tell me it'll never happen. They're winning. They're winning every single day. They own the universities. They own the public schools. They own the labor unions. They own almost every major institution in America. Don't tell me it'll never happen. It is happening. It's happening right in front of you right fucking now. That's what I'm trying to show you.
See anti-fatness being used to like maintain the state overall is if we think about sort of like the marketing for diet or weight loss medications, Novo Nordisk, which is the corporation that makes Ozempic, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, but is like one of the medications that's being like marketed for weight loss and in certain doses. And they have been sponsoring kind of some of these like rhetoric or reports from this organization called the American Security Project, which is claiming that fatness needs to be eradicated because it impedes upon kind of military readiness.
Yep. True, Andre.
Or
Thank you.
US military readiness specifically. So I think about like, what does it mean to frame anti-fatness as like tied to kind of state projects like the US military, which is a source of like massive, death and maiming, and what it means to, like for anti-fatness to be
Okay, if you're new here and you're having a hard time understanding, here's what you need to know. Number one, you are learning to speak a different language. You cannot learn to speak a different language by watching a 5-minute video. You can't learn to speak a different language by watching an hour-long video. You have to immerse yourself in the language and allow yourself to be confused for a while in the learning of the language. So the reason this all sounds like gibberish is because you're new and you're just learning how to speak the language. You have to just allow the process to take place. It takes more than one stream. For many people in my community, it takes weeks or months for them to start understanding the language. Once you become fluent in the language, you will understand the left at a deeper level than almost anyone else on the internet. Okay? I'm working on making a dictionary. I'm working on it right now. However, the very best way to learn the language is for you to sit down and stop talking and just listen to what the left says. Now, for people who are new, I do have a resource for you. If you go to my Substack, which is Karlyn, Karlyn.substack.com, I want you to click the very intuitive and overtly placed image that says, "New to my work, start here." When you click on that, I want you to scroll down. And at some point, you will find this class, the re-education class, an anti-communist introduction to the far left. This is a 90-minute video that will introduce you to the language. You can get used to hearing it. You will hear plenty of them saying it in their own trainings and stuff like that. If you are confused by the language and you want a crash course, don't go watch it now. Sit here and watch with us. But sometime this weekend or sometime this week, go and watch this video. It's also available on my YouTube channel. You can find it there. There are also more advanced videos you can watch, like the How to Speak Socialist video and the Introduction to Queer Marxism. But start with this one and just watch this one and just let it process. This is your crash course for beginning to understand the language, okay? So if you're new and you're confused and this all sounds like word salad, it's just because you don't speak the language yet. But in coming to the streams and watching the streams, we will teach you how to speak the language. And then once you hear it, you will never be able to unhear it. And it will be all over. And you will be miserable for the rest of your life. And it'll be really great. And then you can come and spend all your time with us watching stuff like this. Peggy said, "Oh my God, please don't ban me, but Tommy will bring out an inflatable Trump. Will Tommy bring out an inflatable Trump costume tonight? I don't know. LOL, I told hubby I have the right to remain fat. He died laughing." Yeah. Listen, guys, we will be doing protest coverage later. We're eating our vegetables right now. We will do protest coverage later, I promise. But we got to get this part and we got to watch this stuff before we actually go and watch the protest, okay?
Deployed kind of in that way of like, as a form of like militarism. I think kind of right now in the current like fascist paradigm that we're witnessing in the US, it didn't kind of come out of nowhere. And it, emerged from like previously existing social conditions and kind of cultural attitudes that are built into like the everyday fabric of the United States.
That means normativity. What she just said, that's what normativity is. It's the pre-existing conditions and social attitudes that are built into the capitalist system. Effectual insurrection. I think there aren't people that are evil. Oh, will it never happen? Right. All because you're not evil doesn't mean they aren't. We have to conquer commies just like our grandparents did or else. Well, I would argue our grandparents didn't conquer commies and that's part of the problem. But thank you for the Rumble rant. I appreciate it.
Or any state, you could maybe argue. The kind of like current paradigm that we're seeing right now with certain person being the head of the Department of Health and Human Services, like I think of that as
RFK.
kind of a result of like decades of so-called anti-obesity decades of so-called anti-obesity moral panic, where fatness has been again sort
Thanks,
of
Silver
positioned
Beast.
as like threatening the sanction of the sanctity of the US nation state by like threatening one's ability to join the military or to be a productive worker. So
yeah, you can't be fat and be in the military. It's a deep tragedy. Spartan over on Rumble says that will never happen. That is what almost every person would say about trans kids if you told them that 25 years ago today. That's actually very true. There was a time, guys, I grew up in the 90s, okay? I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. Obviously, I'm 29, but I may have grown up in the 90s and had my formative year there. If you had told anyone in the 90s that there would be a reality in which all the kids would be transed and cutting off body parts, no one would have believed you. And this is a really important point for everyone who's saying the communists won't win, the communists won't win, the communists won't win. I am old enough to remember a time when no one thought that the kids would be transing and cutting off their body parts. And if you said to someone, hey, do you know in 20 years the kids are literally going to be cutting their tits off before they graduate from high school? Like, they would have looked at you like you had 5 heads. They would have said you're crazy. But that happened, didn't it? And it happened because the communists took over the schools. So that's actually a really good point. And if you think something can't happen, but you don't do anything to prevent it, get ready. You'll see.
I think about fat liberation as kind of like very much tied to this idea of like people can't just be reduced to their productivity, and that our goal is not to be workers. And you know, like if we want to think about like opposing violent structures like war and imperialism, we have to think about the important stake that anti-fatness has in those structures.
Well,
and
this is a good question, James. So wasn't diversity, equity, inclusion another example of it happening here? So I know that a lot of right-leaning people are kind of like obsessed with DEI. There was a point when I was 2 a long time ago. What I will tell you is DEI is a manifestation of a very low level of Marxist indoctrination. DEI is like, this is one of the things that drives me crazy about conservative influencers is they made everything about DEI training. I'm not saying DEI training is good. Obviously, I oppose it. But what you have to understand is DEI is like the trickle-down effect of Marxism. It's a very low level kind of like indoctrination tactic that isn't actually even really that effective. And so is it a manifestation of Marxism? Yes. But you also have to understand that it's kind of like if you get rid of DEI, you don't actually get rid of the problem. And this is a mistake that a lot of right-leaning people make. They think it's all about getting DEI out of things. Getting DEI out of things is fine. It's not bad. But you are not actually going to solve the problem just by getting rid of DEI. But this is, and I understand why you asked this. I'm not trying to like make you feel bad or anything, but that's how I feel about it. DEI is honestly so boring to me at this point. DEI is like so kind of like low level. It's like not even interesting. Like once you really get into communism and socialism, you understand this. But this is kind of like, I don't think that we really win a lot by putting all of our resources into fighting DEI. It's like putting all of your resources into fighting a cough when you actually have the flu. You know what I'm saying? Let's see, we've got another super chat. I attended the North American Anarchist Gathering in 2002. Their entire plan was to infiltrate the education system, and that was 23 years later. Here we are. Yeah, it was their plan way before that. I mean, they've been trying to infiltrate the education system since like the 60s. So it was way before that, but certainly they've done a good job.
How fat liberation needs to be a priority for our like anti-war and anti-imperialist kind of pushes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I want to pause there and just create space for either of our other panelists if they have reactions or responses to that too, because I think you've raised a number of important points around imperialism on the highest level and just on a more baseline level, just the way we're seeing diet marketing and diet and pharmaceutical.
And as a reminder for people who joined late, I just want to remind people the presentation that we're watching right now was conducted at the University of Illinois, Chicago. So this was a presentation at a public taxpayer-funded university in Chicago in April, okay? So this isn't just like in a coffee shop somewhere. This isn't a group of random people. These are university professors. These are university students. This is funded with university resources. This is all paid for by taxpayers.
He's buying into this whole structure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, gosh, I mean, I really love how Autumn brought in the military readiness piece, because I think about that a lot. You know, we think about like President Eisenhower was the person who introduced the presidential fitness test. And the whole idea was to begin military readiness, military consciousness in children, essentially, right? Like
Training children to be part of the military industrial complex. Watched Nightmare Before Christmas last night and was struck by the idea that Jack was experimenting with transgender identity and rejected it in the end. Great, another movie ruined. Wait until you find out that The Matrix is completely socialist. That was a great revelation. That was a great revelation. You can't actually even watch. Actually, you know what? They took my video about The Matrix being socialist off of YouTube. You can still find it on Rumble though. It should still be there. But we did a whole Socialism Saturday about it.
we have all these athletic tasks, but even I remember reading, you know, something about how even sort of tests about throwing balls, that, you know, how far a child could throw a baseball, was about preparing them for throwing grenades, you know. So I think it's really important to understand that, you know, kind of like Dr. Peralta said, that like this is all part of carceral capitalism. This is part
Carceral
of a
capitalism.
military state. This is part of, I mean, right, like the military is our current iteration of, you know, colonialism. And I think a lot of people think of colonialism as kind of this like old timey thing that happened in the 1800s or whatever. And it just isn't, right? It's reproduced over and over. I have a friend who's a poet, and he says, if your city has a prison, your city is a prison. And I think about, you know, that's, if your country has prisons, your country is a prison.
Unironically,
because everything has to
I agree.
acclimate you, body, mind, and soul, to abiding by living in a society like that. So I really want to kind of highlight those things. I was thinking a couple of things that I was hoping to add was there's this book I absolutely love, which I'm going to put in the chat, called Racial Indigestion, by this incredible scholar named Kilo Azana Tompkins. It's called Racial Indigestion: Eating Bodies in the 19th Century.
Eating bodies.
Double check. Yeah, the 19th century. So to me, you know, I love this book, and her work is so just incisive and so good.
Yeah, she did.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I just wrote a piece kind of in conversation with that book, as well as a few other ideas, called Dieting as a Racial and Colonial Technology of Forgetting, where I kind of write, I'm just going to read a little section from it. So dieting is a technology that co-opts the body via the mouth as a tool to preserve and abstract.
Wait. Did she just say that dieting it co-ops the body via the mouth? Dieting is a technology that co-ops the body via the mouth. Dieting is a technology that co-ops the body via the mouth. Things you only hear in fat studies.
So dieting is a technology that co-ops the body via the mouth as a tool to preserve and abstract colonial ideology.
Oh my
It's a practice
God.
that was designed to differentiate superior, quote unquote, superior people who denied themselves and their bodies from, quote, inferior people, in order to rationalize things like enslavement and genocide. And I think it's important to understand,
Dieting
right,
literally
like,
leads to
the
genocide,
people
guys.
who created notions that dieting or food restriction was morally, you know, significant and superior. These were people who were direct beneficiaries of colonialism. And so I often think, you know, I mean, for me, when I think about the intersections of fat liberation with a lot of other movements, it does really go back to colonialism, white supremacy, etc. But I think what's interesting is like all of these things live as gestures kind of in our body.
Okay. So you have to. Okay, colonialism is another word for capitalism. Most of the words she's using, white supremacy means capitalism because it refers to systemic racism or disparities that are created by slavery, which is a system of capitalism. Systemic racism means the system that upholds systemic racism means the system that upholds racism. The system is capitalism. Colonialism is also another word for capitalism because colonialism means taking the land from the indigenous people and colonizing it under the oppressive force of capitalism. So colonialism is about stealing the land and putting capitalism on it, which makes it exclusive and privatized for the bourgeois or the oppressors or stuff like that. So every time she's saying colonialism, she's also saying that she means capitalism.
Is like even our relationship to food, right? Like in this culture, we're taught a relationship to food that is based in terror, control, discipline, and fear. And I find this fascinating, right? Because of course, this maps onto criminalizing and policing the body, which is part of living in a culture that criminalizes and polices things like poverty and racialization. So anyway, I kind of want to go a little bit further, right? How food restriction becomes a way of perpetuating colonialism, because the thinking around food restriction is because I deny myself, I am morally superior to the quote unquote savages from whom I take life, land, dignity, and freedom. When I deny myself, I disavow or deny my humanity, thereby disavowing my connection to the humans I harm. And I deny my connection to the earth. I deny my connection to animals. I deny that I am not superior, but exactly the same as every other living thing that has a right to live and thrive on the planet that also must eat to survive.
Hey, thanks, Mark. I appreciate
because I deny
it.
myself food, I lie to myself and I tell myself I am better. And because I'm better, it's my destiny to dominate land, earth, and humans. And because I will own and tame and control everything around me.
See, that's what I just explained. She's saying that if I'm not fat, then I believe I'm better from other people. And that means I get to dominate land and control other human beings. That is a reference to capitalism. Dominating land, taking land, stealing land is a reference to capitalism because capitalism means private property ownership.
That has a right to live and thrive on the planet that also must eat to survive. And because I deny myself food, I lie to myself and I tell myself I am better. And because I'm better, it's my destiny to dominate land, earth, and humans. And because I will own and tame and control everything around me, my legacy will live on forever. And right, like, so this is kind of like the moral rationalization. Like, it's important to understand that fat phobia, anti-food sentiments, dieting, etc. All of this emerges, and by the way, some of you probably already know this. Like,
oh yeah,
some of the leaders of
Gary.
like the historical leaders of what we now know as contemporary food restriction or contemporary dieting, these were.
All right, I gotta pee. I'll be right back. I'm gonna let this play. Let me know if I miss anything.
Men like Sylvester Graham, who invented the graham cracker, who was also a rabid anti-masturbation advocate. He advocated for like extremely, inhumane ways of getting children to stop masturbating. Like pouring pure carbolic acid on their genitals. Like it was, so this guy who is like the inventor of the graham cracker, who is kind of the granddaddy of the gluten-free diet. The reason he's called the grandfather of the, he's called the prophet of bran bread or whatever. He had kind of like a moniker. His whole thing with the graham cracker was he thought that leavening and food that had excessive flavor, right? Like notice the subtle racial nod, right? Food with excessive flavor led to sexual excitation, which, and again, when we're looking at kind of sites of control, the food, the mouth and the genitals are our natural body's ways of interacting and creating cycles of interdependence these are points of entry. And so the state, must control these sites in order to kind of maintain all this like horrible alienation and garbage, right? But anyway, so Sylvester Graham is like the granddaddy of the gluten-free diet, who believes like yeast leads to sexual excitation, which fundamentally leads to immorality. John Kellogg, who invented the Kellogg's cornflakes, was another huge, what we would call, basically, these were like the Gwyneth Paltrows of their day. They were like men who had money and influence, and they were able to spread their ideas as pseudoscientific, as quackery as they were, as quackish as they were, and they were trendy.
All right, I'm
right?
back.
People loved going like John Kellogg had like a sanitarium, like a health spa where people would come. Anyway, all that to say, right? Why when I started
It got
learning
wild
about
when I
these
walked
men,
away.
also, right,
Uh-oh.
John Kellogg was also an anti-sex advocate. He never consummated his marriage. So why are all these people who actually are
You guys are telling me I need to rewind? Do I need to rewind? Okay. Okay, of course I had to pee at the wrong time. I'll rewind a little bit. Oh, I see masturbation. Oh, good. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Well, let's go to here.
I find this fascinating, right? Because of course, this maps onto criminalizing and policing the body, which is part of living in a culture that criminalizes and polices things like poverty and racialization. So anyway, I kind of want to go a little bit further, right? How food restriction becomes a way of perpetuating colonialism, because the thinking around food restriction is, because I deny myself, I am morally superior to the quote unquote savages from whom I take life, land, dignity, and freedom.
Savages.
When I deny myself, I disavow or deny my humanity, thereby disavowing my connection to the humans I harm. And I deny my connection to the earth. I deny my connection to animals. I deny that I am not superior, but exactly the same as every other living thing that has a right to live and thrive on the planet, that also must eat to survive. And because I deny myself food, I lie to myself and I tell myself I am better. And because I'm better, it's my destiny to dominate land, earth, and humans. And because I will own and tame and control everything around me, my legacy will live on forever. And right, like, so this is kind of like the moral rationalization. Like,
No, I didn't,
it's important
Andre.
to understand that fat phobia, anti-food sentiments, dieting, etc. All of this emerges, and by the way, some of you probably already know this, like
I displayed it on the screen, Andre. They want no categories, parental rights as a category. I displayed it on the screen at the time. So I didn't miss your super chat, bro, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
some of the leaders of our, like the historical leaders of what we now know as contemporary food restriction or contemporary dieting, these were men like Sylvester Graham, who invented the graham cracker.
Oh, here we go.
Who was also a rabid anti-masturbation advocate.
Oh,
he advocated for like extremely, inhumane ways of getting children to stop masturbating. Like pouring pure carbolic acid on their genitals. Like, it was, so this guy who is like the inventor of the graham cracker, who is kind of the granddaddy of the gluten-free diet, the reason he's called the grandfather of the, he's called the prophet of bran bread or whatever. He had kind of like a moniker. His whole thing with the graham cracker was he thought that leavening and food that had excessive flavor, right? Like, notice the subtle racial nod, right? Food with excessive flavor led to sexual excitation, which, and again, when we're looking at kind of sites of control, the food, the mouth and the genitals are our natural body's ways of interacting and creating cycles of interdependence. These are points of entry, and so the state, must control these sites. In order to kind of maintain all
the
this
mouth
like,
is
horrible
a site
alienation
of
and garbage,
entry.
right? But anyway, so Sylvester Graham is like the granddaddy of the gluten-free diet, who believes like yeast leads to sexual excitation, which fundamentally leads to immorality. John Kellogg, who invented the Kellogg's cornflakes, was another huge, what we would call, basically, these were like
Not
These were like the
cornflakes.
Gwyneth Paltrows
Anything but
of their day.
cornflakes.
You know, they were like
Yo, cornflakes are one of the best cereals. I will die on that hill. Cornflakes are a great fucking cereal. These people are just creating division so they can get us to fight each other instead of the 99% fighting the corrupt, the 1% they're the problem. Well, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I get what you're saying, though. I get it. Hey, Ragnar over on Rumble, $20 Rumble rant. Fat lives matter. So true. So true. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Men who had money and influence, and they were able to spread their ideas as pseudoscientific, as quackery as they were, as quackish as they were, and they were trendy, right? People loved going like John Kellogg had like a sanitarium, like a health spa where people would come. Anyway, all that to say, right? Why, when I started learning about these men, also, right, John Kellogg was also an anti-sex advocate. He never consummated his marriage. So why are all these people who actually are historically better known for their role and their like weird ideas about sex and sexuality, why are they also in the history of dieting, right? And it's because the whole idea of controlling the body, sources of pleasure, areas where there's potential for connection, interdependence, right? These need to be vilified and controlled. And this and
you know, the real best cereal of all time, and feel free to put your favorite cereal in the chat since that seems to be the topic of conversation. The real best cereal of all time was that cookie cereal. What was that called? Was that called Cookie Crunch or something? The cookie cereal that was like little chocolate chip cookies, but they weren't really chocolate chip cookies, but they look like chocolate chip cookies. That was the best cereal. I will die on that hill. Cornflakes was a good cereal. Cookie Crisp. Thank you. Cookie Crisp. Yeah. Cookie Crisp, all-time best cereal of all time. It was the greatest. Do they still make Cookie Crisp? I don't eat cereal usually, so I don't even know what they have for cereal now. I'm gonna have to go down the cereal aisle next time I go to the store.
And why? Because through that we can justify violence. If we're superior, if we're morally superior, we deserve to live forever. We deserve to take whatever we want. And so I don't want to talk forever and ever, but I just kind of want to end by saying, right, some of these very things that I was just talking about, they exist now in the gesture of food restriction and dieting. Some of the very things that people who are on diets are striving for are the same. Moral and physical superiority, distance from the part of us that connects us to the planet and each other, and also, frankly, the quest for eternal life. So, you know, as even though it's been over 100 years since kind of
Fruity Pebbles are also a good cereal. But Fruity Pebbles, if you have Fruity Pebbles, you have to eat it quick. Fruity Pebbles is not like a leisurely cereal. You have to eat it quick because the minute the milk soaks into the Fruity Pebbles is the minute that cereal sucks. But if you eat the Fruity Pebbles very quick, it's like one of the best cereals ever. I totally agree with that. Former Adventist here, she is lying about Kellogg. You know what? Here's the thing, Tiffany. We don't judge the truth or falsehood of what they're saying because most of what they say is lies. If we were debunking the socialists, we would literally be here all day. What we have to do is say, okay, this is what they believe is true. We are trying to understand their mindset. We're not judging, is this true, is this false? Most of what they say is absolute bullshit. But what we are judging is, do they believe this is true? And regardless of whether it's true or false, they believe it's true. So that's what we're interested in. Just because you listen to them and you understand them doesn't mean you have to agree with them.
Current iteration of diet culture, these ideas still exist, right? And they're more abstracted and people don't even necessarily realize, but it doesn't mean the gesture isn't understood in the body. Like, even if you don't know that dieting is colonialism, your body knows.
Dieting is colonialism.
And there is no tricking the body, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Peralta.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add that, anti-fatness didn't emerge in a vacuum. It was part of the colonial project. It was a colonial tool used to pathologize indigenous bodies. When European colonizers encountered bodies that were larger, fed differently, or moved differently, they labeled them as excessive, undisciplined, and inferior. fatness became a marker of the uncivilized, something to be controlled or erased. And that logic didn't disappear. It persists today through global health policies, Western medical models, and development programs that treat fatness in the global South or Latin America as a crisis without ever asking whose standards we're enforcing or whose bodies we're punishing. I mean, look at the BMI. It was developed in 19th century Europe using data from white male bodies, but it's now treated as a universal measure of health across Latin America. And our public health systems adopted without questioning its origins or cultural relevance. And as a result, indigenous, Black, and rural bodies that have never fit into that metric are pathologized and policed in the name of health. So if we are serious about fat liberation, we have to be anti-imperialist. We have to reject tools like the BMI, not just because they are flawed, and that's proven, but because they carry the violence
Yep, BMI
of that colonial logic.
Yep. Guys,
It means
the BMI carries the violence of the colonial logic.
reject tools
That means
like
capitalist.
the BMI, not just because they are flawed, and that's proven, but because they carry the violence of that colonial logic.
Yep.
It means we have to unlearn that logic and build health systems rooted in autonomy, not that
The
control.
BMI is
that
a tool
all
of
these
capitalism.
Western
Exactly.
health systems want us in.
Absolutely.
Would defunding the humanities be a start? I mean, I guess. I mean, my preference would be to just burn down the colleges and universities in general. It would be to, like, we should not be sending taxpayer funds to colleges and universities. That's actually my preference. We should not be sending taxpayer money to colleges and universities. Either they can operate on their own through grants or whatever the fuck, or fundraising or tuition or whatever. We should not be subsidizing the colleges and universities when they're producing bullshit like this. That would actually be my preference. I don't think defunding the humanities is really going to get anywhere because, like, you have to understand, maybe it would be a start, but, like, this is everywhere in colleges. This is everywhere. This is not just in the humanities. So I appreciate the sentiment, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Lev, thanks for the super chat. Sent you a note earlier about a clip of me talking about your work with head of Yimmy Dems and Animated Macho Man. Not sure the best way or time to share. I'll take a look at that, Lev. I have a huge, just so people know, if you have sent me a message in like the last week, I have a huge fucking backlog of messages. I'm trying to work through them. So if you haven't heard from me, it's not that I didn't get it. It's probably that I haven't looked at it yet. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm seeing your heart reaction and wondering if there's anything you wanted to tack on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of
Yeah,
those
Autumn.
points were really incredible. I think, to Virgie's point about kind of thinking about like dieting or food restriction as a way of like distancing the body from nature, from animals. I think about kind of like how a lot of kind of like decolonial worldviews and kind of like decolonial perspectives on nature have really pointed out that like we are not separate from nature, and part of like how the like ideology of colonialism has operated has been through trying to like distance humans from nature, or like create this idea of like hierarchies of beings. And I think it's really important to think about anti-fatness and dieting and like intentional weight loss as part of that, as a part of kind of like disciplining the body away from like its natural state, and like disciplining the body like away from kind of from animals, and away from like other beings. I think also, to like Dr. Peralta's point, there is no there is no fat liberation without decolonization and without like imperialism. I think also about like I need to do more research on this, but I know that like there's been this in kind of like the moral panic around fatness, there's this like myth of a quote unquote like global
I missed your super chat.
obesity
Hang on a sec.
epidemic,
Sorry
and
about
like
that.
I mean that is unsurprisingly coming from a lot of like Western health.
Apologies. I didn't mean to miss your super chat. My bad. Oh, I think this is the super chat that Andre said I missed. Okay, that makes more sense, actually. Okay, let me grab this one from Andre because I think that I did actually miss this one earlier. Even if you pull the public taxpayer funding of the universities, you will still won't stop them since they infiltrate and indoctrinate in the K through 12 schools for decades now. Only way to stop them now is to homeschool your kids. That is an excellent point. Sorry I missed that super chat, Andre. I appreciate that point. Columbus said, I also graduated from medical school in PDX in 2020. This was daily indoctrination. Imagine not being allowed to discuss healthy eating in medical school. Let's just all wrap our heads around that for a second. The American Medical Association has been infiltrated by these people for a long ass time. And it's not just this fatness studies thing. It's like every single thing. This should terrify everyone. Thank you, guys.
Quote unquote authorities, and it's being, and from my understanding, that kind of like measure of health is being like imposed on kind of the global south in ways that again kind of continue
the global south means third world underdeveloped countries.
Of like Western extraction from the global south. Maybe Dr. Peralta can
hang on. I got a Rumble rant over on Rumble from Whatever Happens, our new chief sleuth extraordinaire. Totally off topic. Any thoughts on the etymology of one piece flag? Just saw it in Portland. I've only ever seen it when commies take over Asia and crime think. I'm not sure which flag you're talking about specifically. So maybe I would know if I saw a picture of it, but I'm not sure which one you're talking about. I do appreciate that though. And we just got a $20 super chat over on YouTube. Not today's topic. I sent you an XDM on the two-way radio networks Antifa is, are, and plan to set up, probably to avoid cell jamming. Sophisticated and cool technology. Patriots should know too. And another way to intercept. Okay, cool. Thank you, Lord Devonshire. I will look into that. And I do appreciate the $20 super chat.
Can speak more to that or has more knowledge on that, but I think the way, like, I think it's important to think about the concept of like a quote unquote global obesity epidemic and the moral panic around that being used particularly as another way of like reconstituting like the global structure of colonialism and extraction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it possible to add one more
Yeah,
thing?
please.
This is something I've been thinking a lot about recently, because one of the things that I've found really, very troubling is that GLP-1, producers of GLP-1s are using the phrase obesity is a disease as their number one marketing phrase. And I think it's really important to kind of talk about that, again, disease. And I just kind of want to share this because it's one of those things where I'm like, this is such a soundbite opportunity. First of all, like that these companies are inundating the population to the point that they're gaslighting people, to the point that they do not care about harm that they're creating. They do not care about the correlation between food restriction becoming a runway to an eating disorder, which is one of the most deadly mental illnesses. I mean, there's so many things that are just like, in so many ways, right? Like colonialism and the project of colonialism is nihilistic. And I think what's interesting is that it in some ways, right, there's a hierarchy of bodies, certainly, but there it's anti-humanitarian at its very core. And I always think about, I think about the very earliest settlers, quote unquote, in the United States were sent literally with the expectation that they would die and become compost so that the earth would be arable for farming. So I just kind of want to, I think there's something just so bone chilling about that, but anyway, I wanted to share, I wrote this piece, and it was about how we need to stop letting the phrase obesity is disease scare us or affect how we decide whether we want to be involved with this kind of medication. And I kind of wanted to highlight a few things, and it's connected to intersectionality, right? So first of all, the American Medical Association recently classified obesity, quote unquote, obesity as a disease. This decision went against the literature review. It went against the data. It went against the advice of its own public health and science committee. And it sparked a lot of discussion and discontent in the health care community to begin with. And I kind of want to say, right, like every marginalized, like literally, if you are not a wealthy, able-bodied, like white cisgender man, your existence has been and will be medicalized. So literally every single marginalized group throughout history has been medicalized, pathologized, considered diseased before activists in those communities agitated to have their identities demedicalized. And I kind of want to share some quick examples. Like for women, it was the medical classification of hysteria, which had to be quote unquote treated by doctors. What were the symptoms of hysteria? Reactions to stigma. They were listlessness.
White men, oppressors again. Ironically, communism will have all of us shedding pounds. Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. Under communism, we will all starve because they will control the food supply. I tell people this story, like sometimes there's a Whole Foods near me, and sometimes I go there because they have like actually good Indian food in the buffet at the Whole Foods. And so I'll go there for lunch sometimes if I want some Indian food. And so there was about a 2-week span in which the Whole Foods buffet, it had the Indian entree, like it had the butter chicken or like whatever, and they wouldn't put out the rice. And I've been eating it, like I've been going to this Whole Foods thing for like years. If I just like am out or something and I'm running errands and I want to get lunch, and because they have the Indian food and I like Indian food. And so like, but for like a 2-week period, the Whole Foods employees, who are all fucking communists, were fucking up the buffet, where they put the Indian entree out, but they didn't have the rice. You cannot have Indian food without having rice. It is like against the law. And so my contention is, until the socialists can get a handle on maintaining the buffet at Whole Foods, they should not be allowed to run the food supply. I mean, I think this is pretty fucking basic. If you can't run a buffet at a supermarket, then you cannot be allowed to maintain the food supply. We have to go in baby steps. You have to learn to walk before you can run. And so, yeah, like I'm a little incredulous about, Whole Foods commies. Exactly. Doc Whiskey over on Rumble. Where do commies get their scientific studies to claim colonial science is false? I mean, they conduct them themselves. They're the academics. Who do you think conducts studies? It's academics. Do they just make it up on the fly? No, what they do is they manipulate the conditions, excuse me, they manipulate the conditions of the study so it says what they want it to say, essentially. Guys, if socialists and communists own the universities, where do you think most of the studies get funded from? The universities. It's the academics in the universities, the academics in the research centers. They're the ones getting the grants to do the studies. So, of course, most studies are going to be leftist, because when you're doing a study, listen, when you're a researcher and you're doing a study, you're the one that gets to decide the parameters for that study. You can say, here's what's included in the study, here's what's excluded in the study. You're the one that gets to write up the conclusions for that study. You're the one that gets to dictate the entire data set for that study. Like, it is very, very easy to manipulate studies. If you want to manipulate studies, you just do it through the inclusion-exclusion criteria. You say, here's what's allowed in my studies, and here's what's not allowed in my studies. And I'll tell you what, and anyone with a PhD that has done a dissertation can back me up on this. When articles are written about studies that come out of universities or that are in peer-reviewed journals, do you know what they almost never mention? The inclusion-exclusion criteria. The inclusion-exclusion criteria is literally all that matters, because the inclusion-exclusion criteria tells you how can this study be applied. Most studies are wrongly applied way too broadly, because if you look at the inclusion-exclusion criteria, it really is only meant to be applied in an extremely small number of cases. But when it gets written up in the media, all of a sudden, people think it applies to everything, and it doesn't, based entirely on the inclusion-exclusion criteria, which never gets mentioned. So, fun fact that I learned when writing a dissertation. You're anti-fat? Okay, Tex, thanks for the $5. Appreciate it. Whatever happens, best case for flat earth commies, say it's round. Yeah, true. True. Indeed. Effectual insurrection only on Rumble. Exactly the results or numbers are skewed to give them exactly the results they intend. 88% of statistics are wrong. Exactly.
Bouts of rage, a sense of irritation, irritability, right? When we're looking at the history of queer people, the psychiatric classification of quote unquote homosexuality was developed, and the treatment for quote unquote homosexuality was electroshock therapy, also very cruel and anti-humanitarian. For BIPOC, it was the creation of the study of phrenology, assessing the size of people's skull in
Phrenology?
order to
Oh,
prove
no.
quote unquote that non-white people were measurably, air quotes, inferior. And for fat people, it's quote unquote obesity, which must be cured through methods we know don't work long term and that I would argue are cruel and unusual. I can't. For
Dieting
me,
is
I
cruel
keep
and
waiting,
unusual.
especially at in 2024 when GLP-1 started to really get aggressive with the marketing and kind of take over the news cycle. I kept waiting for the alarm, the concern from, reputable outlets like the New York Times, sort of be like, hey, these guys are proposing eugenics in their marketing. Like, aren't you all scared? Aren't we all terrified? And instead what they did was they hopped on board on the fat phobic project of trying to throw body positivity under the bus and portray this movement as inherently toxic. And so I just kind of wanted to contextualize, right? Like every single marginalized group has, just like fat people, and we're not out of that, right? Like trans people are still in this. There's so many groups that are still deeply medicalized and oppressed vis-a-vis medicalization. Right. But it's important to understand that this is part of how this system of colonialism, misogyny, white superiority works. They work in collusion, right? And the medical system colludes with sort of societal norms, societal hierarchies in order to maintain and monetize these anti-humanitarian projects. Thank you for that was I'm going to share the link to the piece where I talk about all this. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think that context is incredibly helpful, and incredibly relevant to what we're talking about here, and actually gets at the need obviously to do something about it. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call today are curious, like, what for all of you, what do you see, or what can providers and public health scholars and other scholars and educators do to implement like actual changes in their work to push for, yes, fat liberation, but I mean, I think we're talking about so many liberatory movements that all coincide here. So what kind of changes do you guys want to see? What kind of changes have you seen in action that work? What guidance would you offer, essentially? Dr. Peralta, I think I'll start with you because I'm curious, especially from a medical perspective, where you're coming from.
I think from a physician POV, implementing fat liberation starts with asking a different set of questions that we're asking right now. Not how do we make fat people thinner, because I think that's what we are always asking ourselves, but how do we make systems safer, more just, and more responsive to everybody? For providers, it means moving beyond weight neutral language and into actual practice that resist weight-based assumptions. It means learning to sit with the discomfort, to unlearn pathologizing instincts, and to see fat patients as whole people, not problems to solve. Because I think, this weight neutral world and the weight neutral approach, it's going for me in the same route.
The weight neutral approach. It's kind of like saying you should be colorblind, isn't it? Kelsey, thanks for the super chat. Yes, I always look at who funds studies and who is behind documentaries, and that tells the intention of the message. Again, it's not just about who funds them. I didn't say who funds them. I said, what is the inclusion-exclusion criteria? That's actually what's going to tell you how they're manipulating the studies. Who is included in the study and who is excluded from the study. That's the most important thing. But yeah, who funds them matters, but it doesn't tell you how they're manipulating the study.
Of body positive, like, yes, all these beautiful words, cute words, and weight neutral language, but then into the actual practice, once you're practicing, we are still doing weight-based assumptions. We still don't have the instruments for everybody. We don't have clothes for everyone. So, you know, in our clinical practice, we have to focus on restoring trust, body trust, but also
Focus,
trust
guys.
in the
Focus.
provider. The patients are not trusting their provider. We do not have a provider-patient relationship. That means not using weight as a shortcut for health, not prescribing restriction as a default, and understanding that trauma often lives in the body as silence or resistance. Fat patients are often labeled non-compliant, when in fact they are protecting themselves from harm. And I can give you one example. I had a patient who hadn't been to the doctor in 6 years after a traumatic experience of being weighed and shamed during her pregnancy. And when she came to me, we didn't talk about her weight. We talked about how her body was doing now, what she needed to feel safe in that room, and what support she wanted for her health on her own terms. That's what liberation-oriented care looks like, starting from trust and choice, not from assumptions. And we as physicians love to, you know, assume we know everything or we know more than the patient. And that's simply not true. And my hope also for public health scholars, it means, you know, you have to name anti-fatness as a social determinant of health. Right now, fat people, we are studied, surveilled, blame, but rarely centered or protected. We need research that starts from fat people realities, not from fantasies of prevention. That includes, we have to collect qualitative data, challenging the BMI, questioning the goals behind population level interventions that are clearly not working for anyone. And if I can say something for the educators, it's about decolonizing the curriculum. Who defines health? Who gets to be the expert?
Decolonize means remove the oppressive force of capitalism. It is most commonly used when they're talking about decolonizing land, as in, so they believe the Palestinians are in a decolonization effort against Israel. That's why they support Palestine. Has nothing to do with Jewish or Muslim anything. They believe Israel are the settler colonists who stole the land or colonized the land from the Palestinians. The Palestinians are in a decolonization effort to remove the oppressive force of capitalism from the land. But decolonize as a word can be used in many different contexts, as in decolonize the curriculum, remove capitalism from the curriculum, decolonize the medical industrial complex, remove capitalism from that. And all it really means is that they're trying to implement socialism in all these different systems and use them to push a socialist agenda. SS Kennedy over on Rumble. I've made socialist bingo about 5 times tonight. It's amazing how consistent the language is across the intersectional topics. That's something people really need to understand. People think that socialists change the definitions of language all the time. They really don't. Socialists think that there's no consistency across the different groups. These people are incredibly consistent across different groups, across different topic areas, across different kind of collective units, across all their books, across all, they are incredibly consistent in how they use the language. The reason you might think they are inconsistent, or the reason you might think it's word salad, is simply that you don't understand the language yet. But when you understand the language, there is no other conclusion to draw other than these people are extremely and extraordinarily consistent. And that's good for us because that's how we can predict their behaviors.
Whose bodies are always the before. I tell my students when I'm giving workshops and my colleagues, if you're teaching about health disparities without talking about fat phobia, you're leaving a huge part of the story out. And when you work through a fat liberation lens framework, it invites you to imagine new ethics. And this is about ethics of care. One grounded, not in control, but in consent, autonomy, patient independence. And I truly believe that when we create spaces that are safe for fat people, we create spaces that are better for everyone. And, you know, this is not about making people more body positive or about changing language alone. This is structural, this is systemic. We have to ask, who benefits from keeping fat people afraid, ashamed, and constantly trying to change themselves? That's the level where transformation has to happen, to make an impact on the actual structure of the system that we're working right now. Sorry if I went like
No, no need to apologize at all. That was 100% just to retweet everything you said, to be honest. Autumn, I want to give you, oh, Virgie, I saw you move your hands. Do you want to go next? And then we could, okay. Autumn, I want to give you the chance to answer the same question.
Yeah, I mean, again, I second everything that Dr. Peralta said, but I think kind of importantly, a lot of times there's this assumption, at least in my experience, that fat people, especially like fat studies scholars or fat activists, that it's like our obligation to be doing like fat liberation work and advocacy. And I really want to challenge that. Thin people, especially like thin healthcare providers, public health scholars, have just as big, if not.
It's the job of thin people to do the work of fat activism and advocacy. Thin people must be good allies to the fat.
Work and advocacy, and I really want to challenge that. Thin people, especially like thin healthcare providers, public health scholars, have just as big, if not a bigger responsibility to engage in fat liberation. That work shouldn't only fall on fat people. I think it kind of importantly, it's really necessary not to be able to like oppose kind of
Hey, thanks, Deanne. Appreciate
authoritative
it.
figures or like institutions that are espousing weight loss or anti-fat discourse, like my comrades in RPH are already doing. And obviously do that strategically, but I think it's really important to like have that kind of awareness. I think kind of similarly, like kind of to Dr. Peralta's point, when health providers think about what it means to be like maximizing health, we need to reframe health not as this like one kind of target that we hit, but as this very kind of like amorphous concept that looks really different for everyone. Kind of in that way, I think that like people on the fattest end of the spectrum experience some of the worst kind of like cruelty, weight bias, and like access barriers. They should be centered and affirmed the most in like weight inclusive healthcare. Even
Yeah, like the fattest people should be centered in healthcare, and they should be affirmed the most in healthcare. What could possibly go wrong if healthcare affirmed the identity of the fattest of fat people? What could possibly go wrong with this plan, Autumn, Cora, whatever your name is?
like people on the fattest end of the spectrum experience some of the worst kind of like cruelty, weight bias, and like access barriers. They should be centered and affirmed the most in like weight inclusive healthcare. Even sometimes in like fat positive spaces, I see like people on the smaller end of the spectrum being like centered with the erasure of like people on the fattest end of the spectrum happening, and I think it's really important to kind of combat that. I think also like as we need to affirm that fatness is a natural and harmless part of human diversity and variation, we really need to get rid of this like very harmful idea that fatness is kind of like the tragic result of either trauma or like food apartheid. Even sometimes like comrades that I have whose politics or otherwise like respect will be espousing this myth of like fatness as this result of like the capitalist colonial food system. Food apartheid is obviously a massive problem, but when everybody has access to food and when we think about kind of like food autonomy, and everyone having access to a wide variety of foods and reclaiming like food and like the food system.
I'm not gonna lie, like I would actually not be unopposed to airlines making their seats bigger. I think that would just be more comfortable for everyone if we're being very honest about it. Airline seats suck and airline seats get smaller all the time. And I'm sorry, like airline seats don't just impact the fat, okay? Because you know what I am always terrified of? Anytime I'm on a flight, I am terrified that a fat person is going to sit next to me. I fit in the seat just fine. I know sometimes people like to think that I weigh a whole ton. I fit in an airline seat just fine. I wear normal size clothes, okay? I may not be the thinnest person in the world, but I fit in a fucking airline seat just fine. Do you know when it starts to become a problem though? Is when a giant ass fat person sits right next to me. Because I'm almost always sitting on the aisle seat. And especially if a fat person is sitting in the middle fucking seat, that is a problem. So I am actually fully on board with making airline seats bigger again, because fat people on airlines don't just impact, it doesn't just impact them, okay? It impacts literally every single person who has to sit next to a fat person on an airline. I'm not asking too much. The bar is not too high. Weight is a spectrum. It's important to understand that. Well, everything is a spectrum when it comes to the far left. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Lose weight, folks. Seriously, the medical system has been infiltrated by far left activists. Ain't that the truth?
Away from like a grocery store or other kinds of enclosures like a food bank, people are going to be all shapes and sizes. I think also kind of like to Virgie's point, right now there's this very I would say insidious form, or maybe not even insidious, but just this like maybe kind of like newer form of anti-fatness that
I wouldn't say that. Cynthia, I do appreciate the super chat. All I'm hearing from these people is totalitarianism. I think that's a little bit of an oversimplification. I do hope you're hearing more than that. I understand the point you're making, and I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you.
That's being pushed by corporations that are making GLP-1s. That's this idea of like quote unquote like obesity should be like we should have compassion for fat people because obesity is quote unquote a like pitiable disease, and a lot of that rhetoric is again rooted in this desire to eradicate bodily diversity, and you know is not backed by medical science at all, especially if like we think about even like sometimes like efforts to kind of like not abolish but like change BMI are coming from these like weight loss industry astroturf organizations like the Obesity Action Coalition, where they're like, oh, so we shouldn't measure fatness based on BMI, but we should measure it based on like waist circumference or like body fat percentage. Like that's still a way of like pathologizing and saying that fat bodies need to be eradicated. So I think it's just important to think about ways in which anti-fatness is like morphing to fit kind of our current era and like have a toolkit to be able to like dismantle and challenge that whenever possible. I think kind of finally there's this like I see this a lot recently, especially when it comes to like GLP-1s and like conversations like, can you be body positive and still lose weight? And like I'm not interested in like, and I think everybody, or maybe not everybody, but like the vast majority of people in fat liberation spaces do not care what anyone else does or doesn't do with their own bodies. And we're not interested in like judging anyone for losing weight or doing anything with their own bodies. But I think it's really important to push back against this kind of like neoliberal rhetoric that centers weight loss as like a personal choice without considering like the context in which we make those choices. Especially if we consider like how long-term weight loss is not sustainable, and weight cycling is associated with like so many negative health outcomes. A lot of the like negative health outcomes that are associated with fatness or correlated with fatness may actually be due, or not may, probably are actually due to weight loss and the impacts of weight cycling.
I love this. Guys, the problem is not being fat. Health problems are not caused by being fat. What causes health problems is dieting and losing weight, and then gaining it back again, and then dieting and losing weight again, and then gaining it back again. It's not that you were fat in the first place. That's totally fine. But it's when you start dieting and losing weight, that's when the health problems start. Okay. Okay, Autumn. Okay.
Choice without considering like the context in which we make those choices. especially if we consider like how long-term weight loss is not sustainable, and weight cycling is associated with like so many negative health outcomes. You know, a lot of the like negative health outcomes that are associated with fatness or correlated with fatness may actually be due, or not may, probably are actually due to weight loss and the impacts of weight cycling. So I think instead of like asking this question of like, can you be body positive and still lose weight, we need to ask the question of what are the like larger social conditions that tell people that they need to lose weight, that they need to restrict food in order to have decent healthcare, to be believed as you know, like to be believed as survivors, which like I've been assaulted and I've like not been believed as a survivor, or like, you know, or to have like access to social support. You know, what are the broader kind of like social structures that make those conditions possible? So I think, I don't know, I think that's something that is really important right now for providers, because sometimes I hear providers asking like, well, what do I do if a patient tells me that they want to lose weight? And I mean, I think we can affirm that that's a valid and understandable desire, but I think if you're a medical provider, you have an obligation to tell a patient like, you know, you can do whatever you want with your body and I'm not going to judge you, but also the medical evidence shows that long-term weight loss is not sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Autumn. Virgie, same question to you. What do you think providers, public health scholars, and educators could do?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with the San Francisco Department of Public Health for the last few months on, you know, bringing weight neutrality to some of their education programs, and it's like, and I think it's really helped me understand sort of the struggle of public health being embedded in that environment. I think kind of like my top level notes are like, you know, you're allowed to take a stand, figure out your values, and stand by them. And if, you know, if like universal humanitarianism, if body weight neutrality, if they're not only values, they're evidence backed, you know, stances, right? It's okay to figure out what your values are and stand by them. The next thing is you need to tell your stakeholders what your values are. So, and figure out how you're going to do that. Is it going to be through meetings? Is it going to be on your website? Like one of the things that when we got to this question, with the team, one of the people on the team decided one of the ways she wanted to do it was she wanted to design all these cool posters that literally she put all over her office. So if you come into her office, you are absolutely going to see a sign that says, you know, health outcomes improve whenever there's less stigma. There's going to be weight neutral messaging and body positive messaging when you enter her office. So like that's how she's advertising. And that's very authentic to who she is. And she loves like bright colors. And so that's like, it's very genuine to who she is. And I often encourage people like, find your voice and find your footing. If you're someone who like loves to make cute posters, make cute posters. Like if you're someone who loves to have hard political conversations, have those conversations. If you are the best at writing an email that really conveys meaningful information really well, do that. And then I think finally, like in terms of like the top level notes, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be at the level where you're doing like media hardball training. I think a lot of people think because there's so much vitriolic anti-fat attitudes that in order to combat that, you have to be like offense, defense, like you know, like you don't have to be a professional tennis player in the theoretical sense to be able to take a stand and say all health outcomes improve when stigma decreases. Period. Like if you care about the health of anybody, you're going to be fighting to end the stigma that's absolutely impacting their mental and physical health. So I think like you don't have to be some kind of professional speaker to be able to say that, nor do you have to be a professional speaker to have a value and take a stand, right? So I kind of, those are like my top level notes. In terms of kind of getting into it, I kind of want to build a little bit of scaffolding into that because I want people to know that ending weight stigma has both
no, the term stakeholders. So Cynthia, again, thank you for the super chat. The term stakeholders is not a WEF term. The term stakeholders is a business term, like it's a general business term. It's just used to like denote like who has something to gain from whatever this situation is with an organization or something like that. But I wouldn't say that's a WEF term. I think that is very overly broad because it's all over business school books. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Very strong humanitarian case, but it also has a very strong data and evidentiary
Anyone
case.
with skin in the game.
And I
Thank
want to
you.
say
That's a much
few
better
things about that. So to
definition.
begin with, like I said, health outcomes always improve when there's less stigma. For example, we know that we have this research on fat women. We know that plus size women who have lower internalized weight stigma have better health outcomes than women of the same weight who have high internalized weight stigma, indicating that stigma plays a major mediating role in mental and physical health.
You know, call me crazy, but I kind of think it's just your responsibility to feel good about yourself regardless of what you weigh. Why is your stigma about being fat anyone else's problem? Guess what? I get made fun of for being fat on the internet like all the fucking time. Like all the fucking time. People Photoshop pictures of me. They use pictures of me taken from like awful angles. Like everyone has good angles and bad. And I've got some really fucking bad angles and unflattering photos and stuff like that. And it's just like, am I going to sit here and feel sorry for myself because I weigh more than I did 10 years ago? No. You want to know why? Because like, who the fuck really cares? Honestly, who really cares? It's no one else's business. Like, I don't understand these people who are like you are oppressing me because I feel bad about being fat. Just stop feeling bad about it. Just stop feeling bad about it. Like, if you want true fat liberation, stop giving a fuck what everyone thinks. Like, literally, stop giving a fuck what everyone thinks. If you want to lose weight, then go lose weight. If you don't want to lose weight, then don't lose weight. Who really cares? But like, your anxiety and your self-image are not everyone else's fucking problem.
The next thing I kind of want to share, and again, I'm building up kind of the scaffolding is evidentiary because this field is so based on like evidence-based approaches, right? Which I clearly understand. So I remember a moment in my own early research where I came upon the finding that I'm going to share with you, and it kind of like blew my mind. I remember sort of like pushing back from my laptop and just being like, I need to think about this for like 2 whole days. And
Hang on, I got a super chat here. Mad Frog, how do they reconcile the fact that Asians are the thinnest? Because Asians have ascended to whiteness. Asians, they actually do talk about this. Asians are considered to be the model minority, which means that Asians have ascended to whiteness and are therefore white, and so they are therefore not considered a minority. Asians are privileged. How is BMI racist? They say BMI is racist because Black people are more apt to have a high BMI than white people, and therefore, ergo, BMI is racist. Skinniness is colonial. They ignore Asians. They don't ignore Asians. They say they've assimilated to whiteness. But I get what you're saying, Mad Frog. Thank you for the super chat.
Finding was from a 2020 paper that came out in a journal, and it said the health assumptions rest upon health policies rest upon the assumptions that 1, higher body weight equals poorer health, 2, long-term weight loss is widely achievable, and 3, weight loss results in consistent improvements in physical health. And they go on to say these 3 assumptions underlying the current approach are not supported empirically.
I just want to point something out. This woman doesn't have a wrist. This woman literally doesn't have a wrist. I'm not usually one to make fun of someone's weight because I truly don't actually care. But this woman doesn't have a wrist.
2, long-term weight loss is widely achievable. And 3, weight loss results in consistent improvements in physical health. And they go on to say these 3 assumptions underlying the current approach are not supported empirically. And so it's like one of those moments where you're like, these are the table legs of medical fat phobia, and they're not empirical. right? Like a little bit, like, I think what's wild is like when you start to get into the research, because fat phobia is so strong in medicine and culturally, you begin to see how sloppy a lot of the research is. Like there's false equivalencies, there's all kinds of like attribution error, there's all these problems because the fat phobia is so deeply mediating how people are doing research. To continue, I think public health scholars and educators need to understand that I think that, you know, the medical sector and the public health world in general are often looking at the wrong data and looking at data they have incorrectly. So, for example, this is where like kind of attribution error happened, right? We have data that shows that thin people live longer, healthier lives. However, we also have data that shows that trying to turn a fat person into a thin person not only doesn't work, but leads to harm. We also know that stigma, again, is a major mediating factor. So it's kind of like saying that we know white people live longer lives than Black people, which is still true today, right? And it's like saying it must be something inherent to being in a racialized body that leads to these outcomes. Of course, it's not being in a racialized body. It's because the systems, you know, make like being a racialized person extremely difficult in ways that harm like affect longitude, like affect lifetime, life expectancy. Also, right, like weight stigma has been correlated with shortened life expectancy. I just have a couple more things that I want to share and then I'll stop. But fundamentally, I think one of the biggest things is our current cultural approach kind of allows us to write this like blank check. You know, a fat phobia gives medicine this blank check where it's like, okay, we started creating diet pills in like in the 1800s. That didn't work. It's been over 100 years. But you know what? Everybody who's been treated like a guinea pig, it's all collateral damage, not a problem, because we're going to find the quote unquote solution to fatness eventually, right?
Yeah, it's all capitalism. It's all capitalism. Thanks, average person. Vergi coined cake-related fat phobic incident in response to some woman taking a smaller slice of cake because she wanted to be. Are you serious? No, you're lying. Average person, are you fucking serious? Is that real? Average person, are you making a joke or is this real? I can't even tell. Vergi coined cake-related fat phobic incident in response to some woman taking a smaller slice of cake because she wanted to be mindful of her intake. Yeah, I think it's serious too. Average person is not the type of person to make shit up. No shit. That's true. Oh god. It's true. People are looking it up. It's true. Oh no. These people are winning, guys. These people are winning and we are losing. We are losing to the cake-related fat phobic incident people.
And this kind of blank check writing is extremely morally hazardous. No one gets a blank check. Medicine doesn't get a blank check. Public health doesn't get a blank check. The idea that I think the fact that we're like in this era where fat phobia just is allowed to go unchecked because eventually, quote unquote, we'll figure out how to eradicate fat people. It leads to all the harm, so much harm to people in larger bodies and beyond. All right, I think I have one last thing. Okay. Oh my God, I have 50,000 things. I'm going to end with this. So weight loss, you know, like the idea of weight loss, which I think is this false equivalency that like, because somebody can be starved and lose weight in the short run, doesn't mean that they can like, you know, maintain that, right? And the idea that starvation is a totally acceptable option. And finally, kind of bringing back the intersectionality, who's really taking, for example, GLP-1s? We have all these celebrity faces we think of when we think of GLP-1s, but the actual majority user are women of color.
My God. Oh my God. This is Vergie's Instagram account, I have to assume. This is Vergie's Instagram account, which we're going to have to obviously take a look into Vergie. I feel like we never really gave Vergie the inspection that she deserves. Vergie's Instagram account. Take the cake. No, I won't cut you a smaller slice of cake. And the description says, a cake-related fatphobic incident, or CRFI for short. It's a CRFI, guys. It's CRFI. Trigger warning, CRFI. Is that moment when it's time to eat delicious cake and an otherwise joyous experience gets ruined by a moralizing impulse. This week on Take the Cake, I wrote about a phenomenon that is ruining the country, and I trace cake shaming back to dirty old fat phobia and misogyny. This was posted like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. When the left says phobic, what are they meaning? They're just trying to demonize you for being capitalist, honestly. Like it doesn't mean you're afraid of something. They're trying to demonize you as a fascist. Essentially, they're saying you are not a communist. You are afraid of communism. You are afraid of intersectionality. You're afraid of all this left-wing bullshit. That's a good question, though. I should come up with a better answer to that question, but that's essentially what they're saying. What, 8 years ago? Wow. Let's take a look at Vergie's Twitter account today. 84,000 fucking followers. Alex has a lot of videos on her. Oh, great. Alex is on the case. Perhaps we should come have Alex do a deep dive with us into Vergie. 84,000 followers this person has. Oh my God. Oh my God. See, no wrist, no wrist, no wrist at all. No wrist. Wow. The psychological cost of the plus size retail collapse. You know, guys, maybe we don't spend enough time watching fat studies. I find that fat studies can be very traumatizing for people, but I really do feel like we need to pay some special attention to Vergie, because this just might be a great source of content. Oh my word. A workshop. Oh, the war against Ozempic. Wow. All right, I'm going to have to go and peruse this later. I do want to finish up soon because I do want to do riot coverage tonight. Insurance companies use actuarial tables based on real-world risks they take for different sized people, like evil capitalism. Exactly, Zero Carb Zen. Exactly. All right, we got to finish this up. Everyone focus. Hang on. We have 20 minutes left. 20 minutes left, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll do riot coverage for the rest of the night. Congratulations to everyone who has made it this far in Socialism Saturday. This is where it gets tough. We watch the whole fucking presentation from start to finish, and then we play, okay? This is our vegetables. We'll get dessert in a little bit. Everyone make sure to mount the like button for me. Everyone make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are not already. I'm watching folks over on Rumble as well. We got a super chat from Ineffectual Insurrection. I keep saying ineffectual for some effectual insurrection. There we go. Dr. K, I bet George Soros is funding the fatties. I mean, Alex Soros, just kidding. I mean, who can afford that much food? Exactly. All right. Let's wrap this up, guys. We're almost there.
Color. So for me, it goes back to, why is our culture so deeply not only comfortable, but excited to celebrate women of color being starved medically? And how is there no commensurate response from the communities that are supposed to care about this? And not only just like, I think it's every human's job to care about this, but why aren't the communities whose job it is to protect health and to do no harm totally fine with, medically starving people who are marginalized? Anyway, I'm going to end there.
No, I think that's actually a wonderful point to end on because it really speaks to everything all three of you have been saying this whole time. It's like these structural issues are baked in, and to the point where people aren't even realizing that there are structural problems, or that people aren't even realizing, oh, this is actually impacting women of color, people of color more than anyone else, because we're almost blind to it at this point. So I think that's a great concluding point. Thank you all so much. I do want to lift up a couple of the questions we had in the chat throughout for all of you, and I'll drop them in the chat as we go along. So the first one here is, in Latin America, I see a lot of thin, white, or ex-fat people in the spotlight as, quote, fat liberation activists. I struggle with it as I see it similar to white feminism, very performative and not inclusive. What are your thoughts? I'm wondering if anyone, yeah, Dr. Peralta.
Thank you for naming this, because it's not just something I've noticed, it's something that cuts deep. When fat liberation gets filtered through thinness, whiteness, or post-fatness.
Hang on. We'll go back to that in a sec. Brian says, Karlyn, have you seen all the YouTube and YouTube shorts the influencers cut after the big Antifa meeting at the White House? Completely clueless people. You know, Brian, I try very hard not to pay attention to things that are absolutely retarded. And yeah, like everything surrounding all the content coming out of that Antifa meeting, that is just a level of retardation that I just don't care to interact with. We are the only people that are hinged into reality. We are the only people that are actually taking this shit seriously. The White House doesn't take it seriously. The people, with the exception of Katie Davis Court at that meeting, don't take it seriously. Jonathan Cho to a certain extent too. Jonathan Cho does good on the ground coverage. I don't want to shit talk him. But like, almost no one at that meeting takes it seriously. The White House sure as shit doesn't take it seriously. Conservative media doesn't fucking take it seriously. Content creators don't take it seriously. It's just all about clicks and clout and cash, and clicks and clout and cash and retweets and shares and owning the libs, and that's all they fucking care about. Whatever.
It starts to mirror the same failures we've seen in white feminism. It becomes digestible, marketable, and deeply disconnected from those most harmed by anti-fatness. It centers visibility over justice, branding over redistribution. In Latin America, this isn't just a coincidence.
No,
it's the result of
no. Stop being a fucking pussy. The fact that there was even an Antifa meeting is a step in the right direction. No. When people say retarded shit on my channel, we tell them no. If you have a meeting and you lie and misinform millions of people, you ignore real world evidence to shill a fucking narrative, not only is it not progress, it's actually counterproductive. That entire fucking Antifa meeting was counterproductive to fighting the left. That entire fucking meeting was counterproductive to actually defeating Antifa. That was a massive propaganda campaign. That's all that is. Propaganda campaigns are not productive, and they are absolutely not a step in the right direction. And yes, Andy Ngo is absolutely spreading a narrative. There was a time when Andy Ngo's work was very, very good. I think Andy Ngo's book is very, very good. Andy Ngo now, today, is spreading a bullshit conservative narrative because he's not an on-the-ground reporter anymore. He lives in London. He doesn't even live in the United States. He has no idea what's going on in the real world. He's not interested in real evidence. So I'm not going to take away any of his past good work, which I do think does exist. But today, he's a propagandist. Yes.
Major systems, colonialism, colorism, classism, and Eurocentric beauty ideals. The people who get visibility in fat activism spaces often already have access to safety, to whiteness, to thin adjacent bodies. And that matters because it's not just about
thanks,
who's
Hoppy.
speaking.
Appreciate it.
It's about
Welcome
who
to the channel.
is believed, who is resourced, and who is protected when they speak up. Meanwhile, we have fat, Black, Indigenous, brown, trans, and disabled people, especially those who remain fat, are still being silenced, surveilled, or forced to perform respectability just
Someone now over on Rumble is asking, does Soros fund any socialist groups? Nope. Not that I've seen evidence of. I have seen exactly zero evidence that Soros funds anything related to the radical revolutionary far left. Soros funds Democrat groups, progressive groups, liberal groups. He does not fund the DSA. He does not fund radical revolutionary socialists. He does not fund Antifa. There is no evidence that he does. Or I haven't seen it. And if someone wants to present evidence, they're more than welcome to do so. But there is no evidence that Soros is funding any of this.
Survive. This movement didn't begin in comfort. It was born from discomfort, from grief, rage, and refusal. So when liberation gets rebranded into self-love slogans, influencer aesthetics, or these corporate campaigns, we have to ask, liberation for who? And that's so important in Latin America, because your discomfort is not a distraction, it's data. It's an invitation to dig deeper, to build movements.
We crossed 124,000. That's pretty great.
To remember that fat liberation isn't just about feeling better.
We might be more than James at the end by the end of the year. That'd be awesome.
Our bodies were run in the first place. And I think that's one of the hardest works right now in Latin America. And you can see it all over social media. And we're only gonna move forward if we're willing to confront not just fat phobia, but the whiteness and classism and colonial logic embedded in how we fight it. And sometimes I think that because we are in Latin America, we think we don't have to fight that whiteness or that classism.
I mean, capitalism.
And it sometimes get lost and in the message that we're trying to get out.
The reason that you need to fight whiteness in Latin America is that whiteness is not a reference to skin color. Whiteness is a reference to capitalism or the system that upholds racism.
Sir.
Autumn, I see your hand up. Do you have
a
question? Please go for it.
Yeah, Autumn.
I mean, I want to snap every time like my co-panelists speak. I think kind of, I guess, similarly in terms of like, I can't speak to a Latin American context, but with this like what I mentioned before, with this kind of like constant like obsession that I see of like, can I be body positive or can I support fat liberation and still lose weight, and this like harping kind of on individual choice. Again, I do not care what anyone else does or doesn't do with their own body, but like in that kind of like obsession with individual choice that is not focused on kind of like structural change or transforming like the social conditions that, you know, tell people that they have to lose weight. I feel like I also kind of see.
Hang on, we'll get back to Autumn in a second. Ohio Rizzler, I know you focus on the US, but how is this all framed in other countries that aren't capitalist? If it's all or nothing, what's the plan for Russia or China? Well, first of all, China is capitalist. The left does not believe that China's not capitalist. The left absolutely believes that China's capitalist. The left doesn't really talk about Russia all that much. I mean, they do tend to be pro-Ukraine over Russia, but it's honestly not something that they really discuss. I mean, so in other countries, it's all the same language against capitalism in pretty much every country I've looked at it in. So yeah. Yeah, they think Russia's probably capitalist too.
The erasure of like larger fat people or people on like the fattest end of the spectrum who, you know, like have no interest in weight loss or have no interest in like normatively like performing, you know, health. And so it's like, why is the choice of like, you know, smaller fat or like thin white people, like why is that being centered? And I think that just again speaks to kind of like the faultiness and the flimsiness of like the individual choice framework. I think also, you know, like I just struggle with the idea of like you know, kind of as Dolce Peralta said, like fat liberation is not like about feeling good. Or I mean, it is, but it's also, you know, not like, it's not like, it is not concerned with like, it's about massive structural transformation and, you know, anti-capitalist, anti-colonial, Black liberation aspirations. It's not about like, you know, you get to wear a bikini kind of thing, which like cool, but I think that's a very like reductive kind of understanding of fat liberation.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. We have another question from the chat that says, and I'll put it through the chat here. There's a lot of pushback in public health and medicine that BMI should still be used, despite, as we've mentioned here, the fact that it's a flawed metric, because it's the way to collect data on a component that they see as importantly tied to health. What non-weight focused metrics would you recommend folks use or advocate for if there's a—
Hang on, there's a question. Are paid subscriber members able to watch members only content on YouTube? Okay, so if there's okay, so there's very, very old members only content that is only available on YouTube, but it's not very good and I wouldn't recommend watching it. What I will say is things like the Inner Circle podcast that I sometimes upload to YouTube, that is also available on my Substack for paid members there. So when I do a paid like a paid premium like podcast or something on my Substack, which I do very rarely, but I do them, I also upload those to YouTube as members only content, and it's available there. If you're looking for like spy streams and stuff like that, that is also links are available on Substack. So I do try to make it available to both Substack and YouTube when people are buying memberships. Appreciate the question.
Need to collect data to inform health.
But there's not a ton of stuff like that, to be honest.
I mean, I want to hop in here because one, you know, the answer that I have is interesting because I think it's like anathema to this idea that patients can't be trusted, right? Because, but fundamentally, I'm bearing the lead here. So like one piece of research we have is that when you divorce weight from health promoting activities, the behavior is likelier to be adopted long term than if it's tied to weight. So if you're using weight as a decoy metric of trying to measure whether a health behavior is working, which again, if this goes back to kind of the sloppiness that I was mentioning earlier, why in the world would you use weight as a metric to determine whether or not a healthy behavior is being adopted and it's effective in creating, like, you know, someone having a better life, right? And so fundamentally, going back to that data point, right? So we know that when we don't have that metric, that people are actually adopting healthy behaviors, quote unquote. I mean, right? Like we can problematize that phrase, but like, I think I kind of mean that in that innocuous, as innocuous as it could be, in that public health framework. And so what this means is that it means asking the patient, right? Like, I mean, I think there's a little bit of it's a switch from quantitative to qualitative. And I think, you know, as someone who went to grad school and like got my fair share of people saying really, you know, people having this feeling that qualitative data isn't trustworthy, it goes back to this anti-humanitarian, hierarchical, the doctor needs to have like an objective measure because the patient cannot be trusted. I think this is what's so challenging, right? Because I think they're like, not only are there qualitative ways that you can assess, is this person doing this behavior because you ask them and you trust them, right? So this like involves this mutuality that is not really part of, you know, like what we think of as respectable medicine, right? And to a certain extent, public health. The other thing is, right, if you really want, like, I think there are other objective. I feel like I'm like, I don't want to tread.
So people know we have 10 minutes left of the presentation. We're getting through the presentation, then I'm going to eat. I'm going to get some dinner, and then we'll do Portland. There's nothing really happening in Portland right now, guys. It's still very early. We have to finish this up before we do riot coverage, okay? Vegetables first, then dessert. I promise we will do riot coverage tonight. Tommy's already out there. I've already seen it.
far into like the medicalization side of things, but I just think about, like, for example, if you are really worried
Oh, it just
about,
started raining.
someone managing a
No, it
chronic
started
condition
raining.
and like having
No.
these certain modifications is going to help them manage that condition regardless of weight, what is the metric that is most connected to monitoring
Oh,
that
it did. It's
condition?
raining hard.
Taking
Oh
weight out of the
shit.
equation. So I think what's interesting is like there's this idea that BMI captures data that's useful, and I think that we all agree that that is a false premise. So if we accept that BMI is not a reliable, and right, like even I was mentioning in the chat, Dr. Janet Tomiyama, who's at UCLA and has a lot of research on this, she put out a paper that pointed out that 1 out of every 4 people, when BMI is used as a metric of cardiometabolic health, is
Oh my
misassessed as either
God.
healthy or unhealthy.
Mesocan, guys, look at this. It has been known since Mesocan dug up a fucking old tweet. Look at, like, I'm getting into the chat right now. Look at this. Sorry I didn't see this. Remember Trigglepuff? She's now a grad student in women's and gender studies at the University of Wisconsin. It is the same person. This is Autumn Miller. This is who we're listening to on this podcast. Holy shit. That is insane. That is actually insane. That is the same person as the fat liberation person. And now we know their name, and now we know their real name, and now we can follow them everywhere. I don't know if I want to show the bikini picture. I don't know if I want to. Okay, hang on. Hang on. I don't want to show my messages on the screen. This is the bikini picture. It's the same person. It's the same. This is the person we're literally listening to in this presentation. Bro. Oh. Yeah, Trigglypuff revealed. Autumn Miller, fat liberation activist, using a fake fucking name. Oh. Wow. Wow. Okay, we got 10 minutes of fat activism left. If you guys can get through this, you guys can get through anything. I believe in you. Listen, I have sat in the same room as socialists for like 4 days by myself. You guys can get through another 10 minutes of fat activism, okay? We train for these moments. These are the moments that count. Sit your ass down, open your ears, and listen to the fat activists, all right? We are literally saving the republic by doing this.
I would call that a 25% margin indicates strongly to me that it's not reliable. So what would it look like to say this isn't reliable? What difference does it make if it's scalable? What difference does it make if we capture very, very quickly this quantitative data, if the quantitative data has like a 25% error rate, right? I think it's important to kind of, again, when I'm thinking about scaffolding, thinking about, is there a problem? Like, where is the problem? Is the problem that I believe fundamentally that weight is a reliable, metric for someone's health? Because that's where we need to start with the problem, right? Is the problem here? Is the problem here, right? Is it structural? Is it intrapersonal? Is it interpersonal, right? And so that's how we kind of deal with these. I'm gonna stop now, but that's my thought.
I will also like to add, if, from a physician POV, if we actually want to collect data that informs health without reinforcing weight stigma, we need to shift our focus entirely.
Focus.
And that means measuring what people do and what they experience, not what they weigh. And I like to see this like in 4 big macro examples: health behaviors, and that is access to food, movement, sleep, stress, not moralized or reduced to lifestyle. Clinical markers like blood pressure, A1C, lipids, if this is medically relevant to that patient. Then you have the social determinants, housing, income, discrimination, safety, because those shape health far more than weight, and especially patient-reported outcomes, quality of life, symptom burden, experience of care. Because if people are being harmed or shamed in the name of health, that's not care, that's violence. So
true.
yes, move away from BMI, but also ask, why do we keep needing to quantify people's bodies to justify their access to care? That's, I think, the shift that needs to happen.
Yeah, amazing. I have to say, you guys keep saying things that I'm
So
like, put it on
stunning,
a t-shirt.
so brave,
Put it on a
so
t-shirt. I'm
stunning,
like,
so brave.
just 100% to all of this.
I have to just like snap at that, Dr. Mendoza, because like I remember once working with she's an anti-diet nutritionist, a scholar, and she was like, she's like, there's this sanctity to health in the West that it's almost like above humans. Like the idea that health is above humans and the pursuit of health is more important than humans. And she's like, if the pursuit of health is not about improving human life, it doesn't exist. I mean, it's not, I think I just kind of wanted to like highlight that because I think this is so important. Like if something is being right, like, because the whole idea is if we're honoring or trying to maintain someone's health and treating them like garbage, right? What are we actually doing? Like, how is this, anyway, I just snapped to that.
Yeah, Autumn, please jump in.
Yeah, I think kind of to go off of that, like I I think we need to ask questions about like why do we have so much investment in like measuring like reducing a population quantifiably down to one number, and kind of thinking about that idea of like reducing all the kind of complexities and nuances of like population well-being. Like, do you have access to food? How is your mental health? Do you have access to housing? Are you able to like move, like engage in pleasurable movement? Like, are you worried that like your family is going to get bombed, or that you're going to be like incarcerated or deported? I think also like, and I how do I say this? I don't mean to be completely like casting dispersions on, I guess, like quantitative research methods, because in the case of patients, like I think there are like, or in the case of like healthcare providers, I think there are so many quantitative ways, like, or quantitative, I guess, measurements that are not weight or are not like body size focused, like blood pressure, A1C, other kind of like lab results, or like or like if someone breaks their ankle, like there are so many different um like results or like ways to measure that are not weight. But I think also kind of about kind of like ways that quantitative measurements is used by the state as, again, ways of kind of like governing and controlling populations. Like another kind of example is my understanding of oftentimes like how quote unquote like successes of global health are measured are like what percentage of women in the global south like are on a contraceptive, for example. So obviously there's a lot of like very concerning like eugenicist or like overtones there. And that's not to say that it's impossible to do like feminist or fat liberation aligned quantitative research, but again, I think we need to think a little bit critically about like what is gained from trying to like reduce population health down to one quantifiable number, and can that even be reduced to one quantifiable number, especially if we think about health and well-being as this like incredibly amorphous, gooey concept. And also like there are so many people who may not be able to like prioritize their health, and like why do we see that as kind of the ultimate goal, especially if we think about kind of like a disability justice lens, and how there are so many people of all sizes who have disabilities and chronic
Disability
illnesses and will never
justice.
be quote unquote healthy by normative standards.
Dang, man.
Absolutely. I don't think we quite have time for another question. But thank you all so much. We do have a couple just quick wrap out, close out things. So, first of all, if anyone is interested in learning more about any of our
All right. I
amazing
think that's it.
panelists,
That's
you
it.
can
That's it. We made
access-
it. We made it. We made it. We did it. We did the fat studies presentation. Okay, how's everyone feeling? Did everyone make it? We lost a couple hundred people in the course of this video. How is everyone feeling about their first introduction to fat studies? Let me see what you guys are thinking in the chat. I'm honestly curious, especially for the new people. How are you guys feeling? Are you feeling fatter? Great. Yeah, we need to do a whole curriculum around disability studies. That is definitely something that needs to happen. You're irritated? Okay. You feel seen and heard? Excellent. Okay, that's really good. Yep. We all survived. Okay. Listen. If you can get through fat studies, you can literally get through any topic on the far left. For those who stayed the whole time, I salute you. One in the chat if you stayed for the entire almost 4-hour Socialism Saturday. One in the chat if you sat through the whole thing. Now, no offense to people who came in late. That's totally fine. You're allowed to come in late. But I think we should do a special salute, especially if you missed the beginning where we were going through the fat scene. If you made it through the fat zine and then the fat studies presentation, you did it, guys. This is a huge hurdle, and I want you all to feel very proud of yourself. I would print you out a certificate or something. I should start making certificates. I survived an entire episode of fat studies. Okay? Yeah, not the fat scene. Yeah, you saw fat porn tonight? Excellent. Good work, everyone. Okay, as a reminder, we do Socialism Saturday every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we watch real radical revolutionary socialism. It won't all be as crazy as fat studies. I just needed to weed out the people who weren't equipped to handle it tonight. If you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to the Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. I appreciate everyone who's supporting me over on Substack. You guys are helping me rise in the rankings on Substack. I'm currently number 38 in the rising politics ranking, which is kind of cool. I'm beating out a whole bunch of leftists. I'm basically the only right-leaning person on Substack on that list right now. So make sure you support my work. This is all dependent on who subscribes on the Substack, who supports me on the Substack. So now is the very best time to do it, because the more people who support me on Substack, the higher I'm going to go in that ranking. And I would really like to be in the top 10. That would be awesome. Okay? So if you've been waiting to support me on Substack, now is the time to do it, because you will keep me rising up the rankings, and hopefully we can be in the top of the politics Substacks on Twitter, or on Substack rather, and that way we can get the word out for more people and get more people to come join us, and that would be awesome. Also, as a reminder, guys, last 24 hours or so to get the limited edition Halloween collection in the Red Menace Supply Company. This is my merchandise store. You can find it at redmenacesupply.com, and you can get lots of cool anti-communist merch in the store, and it's in the description on the video that you're watching right now. We've got 4 Halloween special edition designs that we're doing, where you can get these for 25% off until tomorrow evening. They will be available for the rest of the month. But you will only be able to get them for 25% off through tomorrow evening. Okay. Trendolin is complaining about the Penguins. Do you guys want to watch the Penguins song? We can do it as an outro. We can do it as an outro. Hang on. If you have not seen the Penguins song yet, put 1 in the chat. 1 in the chat if you have not seen the Penguin song. 2 in the chat if you have seen the Penguin song. We can do the Penguin song as an outro today, just because Trendolin's going to give me shit if I don't do it. And, I guess whatever, Trendolin. I guess whatever, okay? So if you have not seen the Penguin song, let me know in the chat. There we go. Lots of 1s, bunch of 2s. Donnie girl, the banished Queen Marxism coffee is good, or the banished Queer Marxism coffee is good. Had it today. You had the special limited edition coffee. That's awesome, Donnie girl. I appreciate that. It's good to know that it's good coffee. That's awesome. Okay. This is going to be our outro for today. We're not going to do the normal one. This is a video that is shown in public schools, in elementary school, and in middle school. And this video teaches kids how to be non-binary and trans through the use of cartoons. This is actually shown in public schools. I'm not making this up. And if you've never heard the Penguin song before, well, prepare to have it stuck in your head for the rest of your natural life. But that's your fault for listening. I'm giving you fair warning. All right, we're doing the Penguin song. I'm going to take a little break, guys. I will be back for protest coverage. Probably, we're going to pay attention to the rain in Portland, but probably within the next hour, I'll come back for protest coverage. So everyone go take a break, get a snack, and we will be here all night watching what's going on in Portland. And for now, enjoy the non-binary Penguins.
No matter how you're born, we each have the style. I'll tell you in a while exactly what I like.
Ariana and Renee, they both are born girls. They go into their changing rooms. Ariana loves twirls. That's not for Renee. Pink will not do. All girls don't wear dresses, they wear pants too. Has Renee lost her mind? What's running through her head? Ariana can fix this, no is what she said.
When you put it on, you do a little groove. You know you've gotta move. That's how you know you've got it right. This is me, who I am. See me in full color, it's me like no other. Originality. No matter how you're born, we each have the style. I'll tell you in a while exactly what I like.
Bryce and Jason, they both are born boys. They go into their changing rooms. Bryce jumps out with joy. Jason has a different idea. The sweater is where it's at. Bryce has to fix this. Here, try this or that. Wait just 1 second. Don't tell him how to dress. Ariana knows this. Only Jason can express.
This is me, who I am. See me in full color, it's me like no other. Originality. No matter how you're born, we each have the style. I'll tell you in a while exactly what I like.
Darla and Charles, one girl and one boy. They go into their changing rooms. Charles is feeling coy. Others are thrilled with the look, but Charles is quite unhappy. Let's try this again. Yeah, this is snappy. Some are confused. They just don't understand. Charles, now Charlotte is certain. Ariana's her biggest fan. Some might keep their distance, but others will come around. Come on over, Darla. Show us what you found. Darla had something on, but is not quite convinced. She wants to try again, yet she still gives a wince. Nope, not right either. Why can't she decide? Sometimes it takes time, only she can find her stride. Darla presents an outfit. The new name is Darren. Now everything feels right. The person within he's sharing.
When you put it on, you do a little groove. You know you've gotta move. That's how you know you've got it right. This is me, who I am. See me in full color, it's me like no other. Originality.
Here we have Skylar, born a boy or girl. Not interested in the girl look. Won't give the boy look a whirl. Skylar wants a new path, and it isn't one of those. This is a unique look from Skylar's head to toe.